Howdy, and welcome back to the Game Vault. The last episode didn't exactly do too well. I guess I overestimated the amount of people who, like me, played games like GTA as a kid and Nintendo games. Ah well. If you want a breakdown of exactly how this is going to work, go watch the first episode. For everyone else, let's look at something a bit less E-rated. So for those of you who are long-time subscribers, this should be a lot more up your alley. But for those of you who are new to the channel, I've actually made a fairly comprehensive lore series on the protagonists, antagonists, and some of the side characters in the GTA universe, called GTA Biographies. It's formatted as though it were a criminal documentary on the characters in question inside the GTA universe, so if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, go and give the series a watch, link in the description. Today though, I'll be going through Vice City not in an in-universe lore explanation kind of way, but with a real-world analysis based on my experiences playing it as an adult. Okay, so a bit of background. Grand Theft Auto Vice City was the first GTA game I played, and I would have played it at my best friend's house when I was a kid, since at the time, all I had at home was an N64. Playing games like Driver, Vigilante 8, and eventually GTA Vice City at such a young age definitely opened me up to a world of video game possibilities, and though I still loved my more kid-friendly games like The Legend of Zelda, depending on which one you're talking about, after playing Vice City I knew I had found one of my new favorite genres, the open-world crime game. Now eventually my dad would stop playing games and give me both his PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, and by that point there was one game I knew I had to have. So thanks to my dad's lax regulations regarding what I was allowed to play, we picked up the GTA trilogy for PS2 at some point in probably 2006 or 2007. Now I would have played a lot of Vice City and San Andreas before then thanks to the magic that was Blockbuster Video, but once I got the trilogy, I made my way through the games one at a time and finally beat them, at least I think. My memory is pretty short, so it is possible I had beat them before getting the trilogy, at least Vice City and San Andreas, but one thing is for certain, whenever I did originally beat them, I did so using a lot of cheats. Now most GTA players will tell you, at least the 3D era old school ones, that cheats are just part of the game. Some cheats were just for fun, some were to crank the chaos levels up to 11, and some were there to help the players, like me, who sucked at video games. I do remember, however, beating GTA Vice City without cheats once as a kid, and I also remember having a save issue related to the memory card or something that meant right as I beat it, I lost all the progress on the save file and had to do it all again. In all likelihood, I probably cheated again after that. The goal today, though, is to beat the game using absolutely no cheat codes. However, I will be cheating just a bit since I looked up a guide to find all the hidden packages. In fact, as we go through the game, we're going to see that if you actually take the time to find all, or even just a lot of the hidden packages, this game becomes trivially easier, especially when you double down on being cheesy and do this. But we'll get to that eventually. I didn't do it right away, especially since you can't find all the packages until you're about halfway through the story and you unlock the second island. Moving on. Now, Vice City wasn't the game that changed everything with the jump to 3D, that was GTA 3, but it was the first 3D era GTA game, and arguably the first GTA game, period, to have an actual story that consisted of more than just go here, kill those guys. Granted, there was a story of revenge in GTA 3, and there were stories for each gang in GTA 2 and 1, I think, but Vice City is the first time we see what is basically a movie-quality story that forms the basis for the game's main missions, and the first time we had a voiced protagonist, with Ray Liotta playing Tommy Vercetti.
Dumb Florida moron.
Now, while I would love to play for you the opening cutscene to set the mood, Vice City, unlike GTA 3, is absolutely loaded with copyrighted music that will pretty much instantly get this video demonetized, so you're gonna have to look them up or go play the game yourself. In fact, we'll talk more about the game's music later on, but holy crap is the soundtrack to this game amazing. For the uninformed, the game is set in 1986 Florida in a fictional version of Miami, the eponymous Vice City, and the vibe of Miami in the 1980s was nailed by both the game's aesthetics, story, and especially its music.
Yes! Brilliant, bloody brilliant!
It doesn't really have an original soundtrack, or not much of one, with an original intro track and a unique piece that plays through the end credits, but beyond that, most of this game's music was licensed, and oh boy, does it kick a lot of ass. So anyway, we start our story in, actually, Liberty City, where some members of the Forelli crime family are having a meeting in Marco's Bistro in typical mobster fashion. Now, at this point in the history of the series, we had seen mention of the Forellis already, but they weren't a fully fledged mafia family, at least not as we saw them. There were the Forelli brothers in GTA 3 who you deal with for Joey Leone, but that was the only appearance of the family, and so those who had been paying attention might surmise that over the course of the game, the Forellis might hit hard times, since when we see them in the opening shot, they seem to be at the height of their power. The main guy here is Sonny Forelli, who is the head of the Forelli family, and he hears from his men that Tommy Vercetti is about to be released from prison after a 15-year stint that Sonny himself was responsible for. Though it isn't really elaborated on until the end of the game, and really not that much, in 1971, Sonny apparently sent Tommy to kill one man, and when Tommy arrived, he was instead ambushed by 11 who tried to kill him. Tommy, being, well, a GTA protagonist, naturally killed all 11 attackers and was subsequently arrested for the incident, which left him with the nickname the Harwood Butcher. Just a quick world-building point here, I find this kind of funny since Harwood is actually a very sparse district when we see it in GTA 3. Now, maybe the area had some major changes in those 15 years, but by 2001, Harwood is pretty much just a car junkyard, a bomb shop, and an empty train yard. For some reason, I always pictured the ambush as taking place at a warehouse or something, but not what is basically a big empty field, but whatever. I don't think developers actually put as much thought into this as I am. While Tommy was in prison, he kept his mouth shut and didn't say anything to anyone about his suspicions that Sonny had set him up, and upon his release, Sonny decides the best thing to do with him would be to keep him far away from Liberty City, with the hope that he could still bring in money for the family. So, Sonny sends Tommy to Vice City to meet with the Forelli's lawyer in Florida, Ken Rosenberg, who sets up a major drug deal with a pair of brothers who were, in his words, well away from Vice City's established thugs. The Forellis also send 2 regular goons to tag along, Harry and Lee, and the 4 men then go to the Vice City docks for the meet. Oh shit, I forgot. This scene also has an original piece of music that is perfectly 80s. I actually did a cover of it too for my GTA Biographies series. Anyway, as Ken, Tommy, Harry, and Lee arrive at the docks, well, this happens.
Okay, that's them in the chopper. All right, here's the deal. They want a straight exchange on open ground. All right? Okay, stay tight. Let's go.
Got it?
100% pure grade A Colombian, my friend.
Let me see it.
The greens?
10s and 20s. Used.
I think we have a deal, my friend.
Oh, shit! Come on, get out of here! Drive!
This video is brought to you by my wonderful patrons over on Patreon. By supporting the channel for less than $2 US a month, you can get early access to videos, the ability to download episodes, and nearly 100 original music tracks. A very special thank you to my executive producer tier patrons, Ezra Hambrick, Mason Colin, Visceral, and an extra special thank you to my newest executive producer, Miles Garrett. All of you are amazing, and your support is something I can't fully express my gratitude for. Thank you so much. My executive producers also get the opportunity to promote some of their own content in these videos, and this episode is brought to you in part by Ezra Hambrick and Mason Colin. You can check out Ezra's YouTube channel, ScottGames99, where they play a ton of classic games, and Mason Colin's podcast, We're About Everything, where they discuss, well, everything. If you want the opportunity to promote your own content, or just want to support the channel, head on over to patreon.com/GuinnessWalker. Alright, back to our regularly scheduled programming. The guy who sold the drugs to Tommy, by the way, is actually a protagonist from a future GTA game, Vice City Stories, as well as this guy's brother, but I'm getting ahead of myself. With the deal botched and both the money and the product lost, Tommy tries to calm Ken down and heads back to his apartment on Ocean Drive to phone Sonny and tell him what happened. And now, we finally have control of Tommy, and realistically, we have full access to half, or almost half, of the game's world, with Ocean Beach, Washington Beach, Vice Point, and the Leaf Links Golf Club, even if the game directs us to immediately head back to Tommy's place. Okay, before I start talking about the gameplay at all, I have to clear up how I'm playing and which version. So for those of you who don't know, the vanilla version of GTA Vice City on Steam is broken. As of right now, it's not even available anymore since the release of the horrible definitive editions, but if you already had them, you still have access to them. However, if you try to play it on PC right out of the box, as it were, you are going to run into a lot of problems. So what I do is use a very small mod pack. Now, it's from a website that I would mention, but YouTube has recently deemed them to be a disreputable site and nearly nuked my channel for having links to them in older videos. So if you really want to know, you'll have to go back to the credits of the older episodes of GTA Biographies. All this mod pack does is apply some necessary fixes to the broken game to make it functional on a modern PC. Widescreen support, proper resolution adjustment, and configurable controller setups, but beyond that, this is as vanilla as it can be. No mods that change gameplay or anything like that have been added, and I actually even forgot to add the high-resolution textures for the main menu screens, so this isn't anything super fancy. As far as how I'm controlling it, well, though this is on PC, I grew up a weary console peasant, and as a result, for a lot of games, not all, but a lot, I am way more comfortable playing with a controller, and Grand Theft Auto is certainly one of those games. Actually, I am using a mod called G-Input, which allows me to change to a control set that mimics GTA 4's, so if there's anything that's affecting gameplay that you definitely couldn't do back in the day, this is it. This means I have full analog control over my acceleration and deceleration, which is just so much better than using the X and square buttons to do it instead. Oh yeah, right, I'm playing on a PS4 controller. Now, as you might see sometimes from the footage of me playing, I can be a bit of a between-the-white-lines kind of a player. That is, a lot of the time I try to drive on the actual roads and even occasionally stop in traffic if it means saving my car from being banged up, but I've definitely gotten a lot more chaotic as I've gotten older. As a kid, I remember I would take the story seriously and rarely do things like rampages, while my best buddy would be the complete opposite and run over every old lady he could possibly find. I only learned years later that I was the weird one. So we drive from Ken's office over to our Ocean Drive apartment, and let me just say, though I almost never listen to Radio Espantoso in this game, the track that plays in the hotel lobby is such a banger, at least in this specific context. Hearing this track tucked in the background when standing inside the Ocean View Hotel is burned into my brain, and I just love the vibe it sets in here, even if the full volume song on the radio does tend to annoy me, like the rest of Radio Espantoso. Don't hate me.
Oh, man.
I want to say that I actually think Vice City here handles interiors better than either GTA 3 or GTA San Andreas, at least sort of. See, in GTA 3, there weren't very many interiors, and when you did see areas that were more detailed, they would be for cutscenes first, like Salvatore's mansion or the top of Kenji's casino. Beyond that, interiors were barely a thing. In San Andreas, you have lots of interiors, but the problem is, they are all, understandably, separated into their own world space that is different from the main world map. This means whenever you enter an interior in SA, you have to use these yellow triangles, and that you are fundamentally in a completely different area that the AI cannot enter or see. In Vice City, though, most of the interiors are separated only by a very, very short black screen transition, and are thereafter still a part of the larger world space, and a great example is the Ocean Beach Hotel here. You can get into a fight with pedestrians, get stars from the cops, and even kill people, all while still being inside the hotel, and whatever you do to the world from inside carries over to when you go outside, at least it seems to. Now, this does present opportunities to cheese the AI, since the cops can't actually enter the building, even if you can see them outside and they can shoot at you and you can shoot at them, but they don't actually have a good angle. I think it is possible for them to sometimes find their way inside, but it's very rare, and it doesn't usually happen with more than one at a time, so you can still hide out inside places like this when you have a lot of stars. So Tommy tells Sonny that the deal went horribly, horribly wrong, and Sonny is not too pleased. But Tommy assures him he's going to...
I'm gonna mail you the dicks of those responsible.
Hey, I already know that.
and get back Sonny's money and drugs. Having history with Tommy and knowing if anybody could find and kill those responsible for another ambush it would be him, Sonny allows Tommy to sort things out, and from here we begin the first real section of the game's story, the investigation.
I'll be in touch.
So, throughout this part of the story, Tommy is searching for clues to find out who it was that ambushed the deal at the start, and along that path, he meets a plethora of new criminal contacts, and eventually, kinda gets sidetracked. Our first lead, however, comes from Mr. Ken Rosenberg, who is the one who originally set up the deal with the help of a guy called Colonel Juan Garcia Cortez, who often hosts lavish yacht parties on his boat docked in the Ocean Beach Marina. Since Ken is scared shitless that he's going to be killed for being involved with the botched deal, he sends Tommy with his invitation to meet Colonel Cortez at one of his parties, and this is where the plot starts to get going. At the party, Tommy meets the Colonel as well as his daughter Mercedes, who takes the time to show Tommy all of the famous and well-to-do people who attend her father's celebrations. Something funny about Mercedes' introduction is that when Tommy learns her name, he makes a comment to her along the lines of, "That's an odd name," and she says, "You try living with it." Now, maybe I'm an idiot and I'm missing something, but I always took this to mean that somehow Mercedes is an actual, real car manufacturer in the GTA 3D universe, since if it wasn't, I can't imagine why it would be such a hard name to live with. Anyways. We also get our first glimpse at the main antagonist for this first half of the game, Ricardo Diaz, who, if you're paying attention, is pretty obviously the one responsible for ambushing the deal. I know, spoilers. I didn't pick up on a lot of this stuff as a stupid kid, but even in Diaz's first appearance, his characterization makes you immediately weary of him, and puts the thought in your head that, hey, was it this dude? And very quickly the game reassures you that yes it was. By this point in the story, though, Tommy is still getting to know people and doesn't have a lot of reason to be immediately suspicious of Diaz, even if we, as the player, are. So Mercedes drags Tommy away from the party before he can get a chance to meet Diaz himself, though, and from there, Tommy concludes that there are more crooks in Vice City than in prison, and that to move forward, they would need a lead from the streets, and not some pseudo-celebrity. Ken Rosenberg then conjures up our next best lead in a music industry clubber out of England by the name of Kent Paul, who hangs out at the city's Malibu Club in Vice Point, so off we go. Now, so far, pretty much all we've been doing is walking or driving places, since most of these first few missions are introducing players to the game's mechanics one at a time, as any good game should. Starting with this mission, we finally get into a proper fight, and even get our first gun, but before that, we have to squeeze the info out of Mr. Paul. I think Paul and Tommy's relationship is my favorite in the game, or maybe second favorite only to Ken and Tommy. Tommy is just constantly, and I mean constantly, a relentless asshole to Paul, even when Paul is actually being helpful. He even acknowledges later on that Paul was useful to some extent, but never respects him or treats him as anything other than an annoying doofus. It's pretty hilarious. So we confront Paul about if he knows anything regarding a large shipment of cocaine going missing, and he points us in the direction of a chef on Ocean Drive, who apparently moonlights as an assassin and has been very pleased with himself lately, by the name of Leo Teal. Well, the game doesn't tell us his name, but we learn both his first and presumably real last name through various sources, since once we meet the guy, Tommy is in a mood to argue. When he doesn't get the answer he wanted out of Teal, Tommy gets pissed, and the game gives us our first real taste of combat. You have to beat the ever-loving crap out of this guy, and once you do, you steal his cell phone, and that's how we'll learn his real name later on. Before that, though, we get ambushed by even more angry chefs, and have our ass saved by the legendary Philip Michael Thomas of Miami Vice.
Hey, chill. I want what you want, brother.
Oh, yeah? And what's that?
Your green and my dead brother's white lady.
Now, something that became apparent here is that for some reason, be it one of my mods or the fact that I'm playing on PC, there is no auto-aim when using my controller for whatever reason. I know for sure the last time I played it on PC I had auto-aim, but I was also using different mods, so I'm not sure why it didn't work by default. What this meant was I had to use only free aim like the PC version originally had, only using a controller. To make matters worse, I'm using a controller that sucks and is dying and has some pretty bad stick drift sometimes, so there will be times when it nearly, or does, get me killed. Be warned. So anyway, Lance gives us our first gun and introduces us to the ammunition around the corner, where we can now buy guns, though only a pistol, an Uzi, and some body armor. Higher tier weapons only unlock as you progress the story. So as it turned out, the lead from Kent Paul was a complete waste of time, or at least it was after Tommy killed Teal before having a chance to interrogate him. Lance makes his presence known, and that he wants to catch whoever set up the ambush too, since his brother Victor was one of the people killed. He also tells Tommy he'll be watching him, creepily, and then takes off where he isn't seen again for a number of missions. So next up, we return to good old Rosie Ken to find that he isn't coping with the stress of the failed deal very well. He tells us that on top of everything we're already dealing with, Sonny Forelli's cousin, Giorgio, is about to go on trial for murder, and Ken's efforts to smooth talk the jury also didn't go over so well.
I couldn't intimidate a child, and believe me, I've tried.
So, it's up to us. So this mission introduces us to the melee weapons, of which there is quite a bit of variety. In GTA 3, all you had for melee was your fists or a baseball bat, but in Vice City, there's a whole store for buying whatever handheld tool you need to bash somebody's skull open. We've got screwdrivers, hammers, meat cleavers, knives, machetes, the classic baseball bat of course, and a chainsaw. Now, most of the lower tier ones are about the same in terms of usefulness, but the katana and the chainsaw are both really effective at chewing through weaker foot soldiers, since they are basically insta-kills. There's even a reference to the infamous Scarface chainsaw scene with this building here that has a free chainsaw inside a bathroom that was clearly used for some less than PG activities. Now, the game supplies us with a hammer, but we can use whatever we want. All we gotta do is find the two jurors' cars and smash them up until they notice, though you also have to straight up attack the second juror without killing him, at least, I think, since I spent an absurd amount of time hammering away at his car, and he didn't seem to mind until I came after him. It's possible if I'd attacked his car until it caught fire that would have done the trick, but that also probably would have killed him, failing the mission, so don't do that. So by this point, we receive our first phone call from Mr. Black, a mysterious contact of Leo Teal's who was hiring him for assassination jobs, and who hires us thinking we are now the retired chef. Mr. Black is never named in the game, so I'm not sure how the folks over at the wiki know his name, or at least what the game refers to him as, but I imagine it's somewhere in the files. The first assassination mission we're going to take a stab at, pun intended, is called Roadkill, and involves us tracking down a pizza man out delivering happiness to the public, and we're going to put him down for good. These missions do gradually ramp up in difficulty just like the main story, but this first one is pretty damn simple. All you gotta do is kill the guy before he finishes all of his deliveries, and as long as you have an SMG that lets you do drive-bys, you can just pull up next to him and away he goes. Now, there are mods to change this, but originally, in both GTA 3 and Vice City, you couldn't use the right control stick to rotate the camera freely around your vehicle, so performing drive-bys is one of the only ways you can change your camera angle while driving. This can present some annoying situations, which is why I think it was changed by the time San Andreas came out, but it didn't feel like adding this in since I want the experience to be mostly authentic to the original. Anyways, with the pizza man dead, we swing back to Ken Rosenberg to meet our next new contact in Burt Reynolds. Avery Carrington.
Howdy.
Mr. Carrington is a foghorn leghorn type criminal business entrepreneur, and as such already has a working business relationship with Mr. Rosenberg, so naturally he recommends Tommy and his skill set for dealing with one of his problems. Avery promises to help Tommy and Ken out with whatever problems they have if Tommy can deal with a real estate issue he's been having. A delivery company that is the GTA Universe parody of FedEx, Spandex, has a depot on a piece of land that Avery wants to use for his new condo redevelopment in Washington Beach. So, to facilitate him, we have to go in, start a ruckus, and destroy their delivery trucks to make the land much easier to purchase. So, something I didn't mention for the mission The Party is that Vice City was the first game to introduce proper outfits to the world of GTA. In GTA 3, you could change Claude's skin on the PC edition to an alternative version that had Claude donning a mustache. But other than that, you were stuck with the leather jacket and cargo pants for the whole game. In Vice City, however, Tommy has access to a number of different outfits, and some of them will even carry over into cutscenes, though it seems kinda random as to which work in cutscenes and when. In The Party, we got access to some jive party digs, and now, with this mission, Riot, we get an outfit meant to help Tommy blend into the crowd of protesters, which just consists of Tommy's normal outfit with a pair of overalls that say spandex. Nice. The rest of this mission is pretty easy once again. We just head over to the spandex lot and start fighting with some of the protesters to start a riot, then sneak our way over to the back to destroy a couple of the company's trucks. There are some security guards that will try and stop you, and if you pissed off the rioters enough, they can even start mobbing you, but as long as you get away from the crowd relatively quickly, it isn't hard at all. They even place some nice, convenient explosive barrels near the trucks to make destroying them even easier if you don't have enough firepower. How thoughtful of the company. If you come to this mission without any firearms of any kind, you can just kill the guards or take their pistols to shoot the barrels and destroy the trucks, but either way, it's best to bring a few guns yourself just to make it that much easier. So by this time, I had at some point decided to try some of the game's rampages, which are spread across the city in obscure but not usually completely hidden locations. Now for those who don't know, rampages in the GTA 3D era were a bit of a lingering legacy from the even older 2D era of GTA games, that being GTA 1, the GTA 1 London packs, and GTA 2. In those games, the reasons why you were out being a chaotic maniac were a lot less concrete, and the gameplay was based more on whatever seemed fun, with much less regard for a cohesive plot, like in the later games. As a result, in those games, there were often little arcade-style challenges of kill this many type of enemies under these circumstances and using only this gun, and those missions, called kill frenzies back then, carried over into GTA 3, and thus Vice City. Though I never spent a lot of time on the rampages back when I was a kid, I decided that maybe I would give them a try this time around, until I remembered, or realized, that a lot of them are kinda stupid easy, or stupid annoying, and worst of all, they don't pay well, like, at all. Now, I'm not knocking these completely. I think the idea is a great one, and I actually remember liking a lot of the rampages I tried in GTA 3, but in this game, I was either really unlucky, or the rampages themselves are a lot worse. I don't really think it's the latter, since fundamentally the rampages haven't changed all that much from GTA 3 or even the older games, but the few I did were either really frustrating or just kind of annoying. This one at the Washington Mall wants you to kill a bunch of gang members using only this shotgun, but it also wants you to leap down into the middle of the mall to get it done fast enough, since the only other way is to go all the way down around the car ramp again. I actually failed this one the first time I tried it too, since I didn't initially realize the game expected me to just jump down. I thought it wanted me to shoot the mall from on top of the mall, but no dice. When I eventually came back to try it again, I got it done, only to be rewarded with a pathetic payout that definitely didn't feel like it was worth the time I invested into it. You do need all the rampages to get 100%, but I'm not going for 100%. Hell no. Mostly just because I don't want to have to do the stunt jumps, but anyways.
Hola, is this Mr. Versetti?
Yeah.
This is Cortez. You were at my party?
Yeah, I remember.
Mr. Versetti, it was a most unfortunate incident that happened with your business deal.
I know.
I want you to know me and my people are doing their utmost to get to the bottom of it. If you'd like to talk to me more privately, you can find me at the boat, huh? Okay? Good day, senor.
Well, it sounds like we have a new contact, so it's time to head on down to the Ocean Beach Marina again to do some missions for Colonel Juan Garcia Cortez. So while looking into the botched deal that he helped Ken set up, the Colonel discovers that one of the people who may have been responsible was one of his trusted lieutenants, Gonzalez, so naturally he gives us a chainsaw and asks us to deal with him. Gonzalez doesn't really have much of a role beyond this mission in this game, though he is actually elaborated on in Vice City Stories, where he's an actual mission contact. For now, though, we just gotta find the loose-lipped smuggler at his penthouse near the Malibu Club and silence him. This is yet another mission that's really easy and fair enough, since the game is still introducing us to the mechanics one at a time. We show up and have to fight off a few of his goons, but really, we only have to not get shot, since once Gonzalez enters the elevator and makes his way to the ground floor, we teleport to him in a short cutscene. After killing a man with a freaking chainsaw in broad daylight, we, unsurprisingly, get the attention of the cops, and have to now lose our wanted level using the tried-and-true GTA method of visiting the Pay and Spray. It's not very realistic, at all, but in this game, and all the 3D-era GTAs actually, all you have to do is enter a Pay and Spray and wait about 15 seconds, then you're good. By the time GTA 4 rolled around, they added the criteria that you need to not be seen entering the respray shop, which makes a lot more sense. But at this time, no such rule existed, so even if the cops are literally biting at your heels, once you enter, you're safe. So at this point, we're starting to unlock a few more options to tackle our various missions, including some new guns. I'm not actually sure when the place opens up, but there is a second ammunition and tool store inside the North Point Mall on the top half of the first island, in Vice Point. Let me just say that I love the theme that plays inside the mall.
I will dance my way to the top.
I'm sure a lot of this is down to nostalgia, but there's something so appropriate about this calm, serene little tune playing when you're taking a break from indiscriminately killing police officers or causing a ruckus. Not all the guns this store has to offer are available by this point, but the Tier 2 SMG is, so we can grab that before heading back to tackle our next mission. If you're going to actually afford any guns or ammo at this stage in the game though, you're going to need money, and unfortunately, the missions don't really pay well enough to keep you armed, unless you just never waste a single bullet or something, so that means it's time to get a job. Well, sort of. So, beyond the main missions, there are a number of ways to make some quick cash, including the rampages I mentioned earlier, though they really don't pay well, and side missions like paramedic, vigilante, and taxi driving. We'll get to the others at some point, probably, but for now I'm just going to do a few taxi missions to make a quick buck, since you get a bonus for every 5 fares in a row you complete. Taxi missions start out a bit hard since the window for delivering fares is pretty tight, but every successful fare you complete adds to your time, so by the time you've hit 10 fares in a row, you probably have plenty of time to complete each subsequent fare and continue stacking up those bonuses. So next, we're given yet another new mission contact in Avery Carrington, whom we helped earlier with his spandex problem. Okay, I could have phrased that better. Anyway, Avery calls us over to his building site to ask us to help him persuade a business associate of his who is holding onto some land rights that Mr. Carrington would like for himself. He sends us to go get yet another change of clothing, and then we...
Nice ass, baby.
Thanks. And then we go find the guy at the Leaf Links Country Club, where the game attempts to strip us of all of our weapons. Now, I'm not sure why I decided to try this, since I'd always done this mission as intended, passing through the metal detector and losing all my weapons, and then using a golf club and a golf cart to kill the guy over by the driving range, but this time, that is not what I did. Instead, I cheesed myself into the golf club by jumping on a car, and then over this fence, and boom, I was inside with all my weapons. If you do this, the mission becomes way easier, which is probably why they tried to prevent you from doing it, but oh well. We shoot the guy and the mission is instantly passed, with even his bodyguards immediately realizing they failed at their job, and deciding their measly pay wasn't enough to warrant trying to kill me after the fact, since the guy writing their paychecks was now, well, dead. So our next mission for Colonel Cortez is the first one that introduces us to his passionate hatred for the French. As a half-French, French-speaking Canadian, let me just say, he might be ever so slightly justified. Okay, I keyed, but anyway, we meet the Colonel at his yacht once again, and despite Tommy getting impatient with the lack of progress on finding the party responsible for botching the deal, we agree to help him by meeting a contact of his at Washington Mall to acquire some valuable computer chips for the French-made missiles that Cortez wants for himself. When we meet the contact, he is as stereotypically French as you could possibly be, maybe even too much so.
The rain, she's très wet this time of the year.
What?
Comment?
Look, Cortez sent me. Just give me the damn chips.
Oh, d'accord.
Freeze imperialist American pig! That is propriété de votre gouvernement français! Hand it over!
You American idiot! They followed you here!
Something kinda odd that I noticed during this scene is that the subtitles don't match what is actually being said by the characters, which happens again later in the game, but it doesn't actually affect the plot of the mission, so it doesn't really matter all that much. Anyway, when the French Special Forces show up to foil our meeting, the contact tries to run away, and we're forced to chase him down and take the missile chips by force. If he manages to get away on his motorbike, you have to chase him, which can be a real pain in the ass, but if you just ignore the SWAT and book it after him, you should be able to kill him before he gets away, as I was. Alright, with that done, I think it's just about time we tackled another assassination mission from Mr. Black, so it's off to find a payphone. This next one, Waste the Wife, actually ended up being my first mission failure, which isn't all that surprising. I remembered always having trouble with it since the goal is to kill this lady by ramming her car until it catches fire to avoid arousing suspicion. The problem is, you have to either use a heavier vehicle that takes longer to catch fire or be very careful with how you hit her since it's just as easy for your car to burst into flames. And at that point, you only have so much time to get a new car before the mission fails because she escapes, which is exactly what happened to me. Oh, by the way, since I don't know when else I'll have a chance to bring this up, unlike GTA 3 or San Andreas, you do not have access to a garage to store any vehicles until about the midpoint in the game, unless you go out of your way to buy one of the properties that has one. The only one that I think has a garage on the first island is this one here, near the North Point Mall, but still, it only has one slot, and there is nowhere else you can store vehicles, which just kinda sucks if I'm being honest. Okay, so next up is perhaps one of Vice City's most infamous missions, Demolition Man. Now, forgive me if I sound a bit like a cranky Kong here, but I never did find this mission excessively difficult. See, once again, Avery Carrington wants us to help him acquire the rights to some land he'd like to develop on, this time requiring that we literally bomb a building site adjacent to his own using a remote-controlled helicopter that carries the explosives. It controls just like any of the other helicopters in the game, and your goal is to fly to 3 separate points on each of the building's floors to place one explosive charge, while avoiding the attacks of the angry workers and security guards. Now, I've heard people complain a lot about the controls for this mission, or that navigating the building site is confusing, or what have you, but in my experience, the only real challenge for this mission is avoiding the security guards found on the upper floors, since they, unlike the regular workers, have guns. I didn't end up losing my helicopter during my initial run, so I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you also get several helis to try before the game straight up fails, so it's not like you have to fly perfectly or anything. A timer does start once you place the first charge, so maybe it's being under that pressure that makes so many people hate this mission, but me, I just find it a little bit tedious. It's not the worst mission in the game, not even close, but when you do know what you're doing, it boils down to fly here, fly there, done. Still, it's one more down and sort of the end of our investigation phase of the main plot, as the next mission starts to make it very obvious who our bad guy is, at least for now. Next up, we have the first mission that I remember being an actual challenge as a kid, and that seems to still hold true as an adult, though for different reasons. We go and see our good buddy Cortez, and he tells us he's gotten us a gig as a bodyguard for Ricardo Diaz, who we first saw at the Colonel's party a while back. This is the first mission that flat out supplies us with an assault rifle, and just like in GTA 3, ARs fire primarily in first person, though you can also do a third person on PC, and I can't remember if that was possible on console. I think it was. At this point, though, both Tommy and Lance already suspect Diaz may have been responsible for the ambush deal, and decide that working for Diaz is the perfect opportunity to investigate and get closer to him just in case. When we meet Diaz, he asks us to watch over his deal with some Cuban gangsters, but predictably, the deal is, well, ambushed. Oh, the irony. This time by Haitian gangsters, and we have to fight them off while keeping Diaz and Lance alive. Now, I said that this mission proved a challenge once again as an adult, but for different reasons, and what I meant was, well, doing this mission without auto-aim was a real pain. Again, I'm not really sure what I did to stop it from working, since I know I've played it on PC before with auto-aim, but since I'm using a controller, and a bad one at that, this just became so much more frustrating. If I had just aimed with the mouse instead, or been playing on console, I doubt it would have been nearly as challenging, but in the end, I didn't actually fail it, just panicked until it was over. One of the most annoying ways to fail this mission is when Lance dies because this one guy comes up to attack him, but I managed to get him just as he showed up. After the initial fight, some Haitians drive by on dirt bikes and take the money from the deal, but somebody, Lance or Diaz I presume, snipes one of the bikers, giving us a perfect opportunity to chase them down. We gun it, kill him, grab the dough, and head back to Diaz for a pat on the back. Tommy also mentions at the end that Lance just vanishes after the mission ends, presumably going back to sit in his silver Lamborghini wearing his pajamas and watch us from a distance, but who knows. About 20 minutes later, while doing my American duty of buying an automatic firearm from the mall about 15 feet from where I bought a pizza, I get a phone call from Diaz saying he'd like us to do more work for him, and even if you'd only played GTA 3 at this point, you'd probably already be getting an idea of where this is headed, especially if you've seen Scarface. I've only mentioned it once so far because I imagine most people watching this already know, but for those who don't, GTA Vice City is heavily influenced by the Brian De Palma classic film starring Al Pacino. That, and of course, Miami Vice, among other things. If the Scarface vibes weren't already sinking in, with the chainsaw, the soundtrack, or the setting, seeing the inside of Diaz's mansion ought to do the trick. I mean, just look at this place. Its aesthetic draws so heavily from Tony Montana's mansion in the movie, and I absolutely love it. I mean, it's like getting to explore Tony's mansion in a video game. Oh, well, that was like 4 years later, so for the time, this was damn good. And hell, it still is. Anyway, now that we're working for Diaz, we gotta chase down some dealer who had apparently been ripping him off by first finding him at his top secret apartment, and then chasing him to his gang's hideout. So this is another mission I remember definitely having some trouble with as a kid, and the first mission that can feel a little cheap. So you find this guy just chilling at his place, and he immediately runs onto the roof and starts shooting at us. Now, seeing as I had already done this mission a million times, I took advantage of that, and decided to try and cheat the game before it could cheat me. See, once the guy sees us, we gotta chase him across the roof, and then he leaps down and gets into a car, and we have to give chase, likely using the vehicle that the game immediately supplies us with, a freaking scooter. Remembering this, I tried to place a better bike where the scooter was, hoping it would make the chase easier, but, well, I think you can guess what happened. I chase him down, he gets into his car, and what do I find waiting for me by the dumpster? Trash. A scooter. Normally, I actually like the Faggio, especially the one they had in GTA Online, since there are references to British mod culture, which I love due to my favorite album being The Who's Quadrophenia, but in this game, the Faggio sucks, or more specifically, it sucks for this mission. Plus, it's a scooter, it always kinda sucked for a driving game. Anyway, we gotta chase this guy who is literally shooting at us while we're driving a freaking scooter, and the only real way to get this done without getting shot in the face or your scooter being blown up is to employ the classic strategy of serpentine. Even doing this, I still got one of my tires shot and nearly lost it a few times, but all you gotta do is not die and follow the guy to Prawn Island, whereupon a new cutscene plays, and we're done. The next mission is another one for Diaz himself, and it's one that I literally had no idea how to pronounce or what the hell it even meant until years and years later. Actually, I still don't think I know how to pronounce it right. Phnom Penh. Alright, it's the capital of Cambodia. I knew that. Now, how the hell do I pronounce it?
Phnom Penh.
Oh. I gotta think that's heavily anglicized because that's not even far off from what I thought. I figured it would have been way off. Anyways, it's a reference to the Vietnam War, or I guess the Cambodian-Vietnamese War around the same time, but I always felt like it was a bit of a reference to Apocalypse Now too, even if that was actually set in Vietnam and not Cambodia. So this mission is just an on-rails shooter, at least the first part is. It's also the first time we hear Lance go by his pseudonym Quentin to Diaz, which actually carries over into Vice City stories, with the explanation being that Lance hates his name to some extent. Oh, this is also the first time we hear his full name.
One thing's puzzling me. What's with Quentin?
I don't know. I always kind of liked it. Quentin Vance.
Vance? You hate Lance Vance?
Hey, I got enough of that at school.
Lance Vance, poor bastard.
This mission is also a direct follow-up to the last, since last time we found out where the thieves were hiding, and now we're taking the fight to them with a helicopter and Old Faithful, an M60. I'm not sure why, but I absolutely love the M60 in this game. It's teased to you in missions like this, but you can actually carry it yourself eventually once you've unlocked Phil Cassidy's weapons. And even though the minigun is arguably a lot better, and it's what I used during most of this playthrough, the Vice City M60 will always have a special place in my heart. So we take down this group of thieves who were apparently ripping off Diaz, and who also apparently had quite a bit of muscle themselves, and then Lance drops us off on the ground to finish the job, M60 still in hand. Aw yeah. We get a rare, fully open interior with this yellow mansion the thieves use, and we gotta fight our way up to the roof to confront the main dude who we saw in the last mission. He's nothing special. Got him down and then wait for Lance to come and graciously pick us up and return us to Starfish Island. Side note, I always loved how when Ken Rosenberg is describing the Vance Brothers organization at the beginning of the game, he makes it clear that Lance's literal only job is being the pilot. He had nothing to do with actually running the business day to day, and we see that in Vice City stories, but what's even funnier is that if you played the game, you know that Victor, his brother, also knows how to fly helicopters, so just... oh, Lance, you helpless dancer. Alright, it's time to go and see Mr. Avery Carrington again and find out what his next cockamamie scheme is for acquiring land rights for his construction company, and more specifically, how we can help him with it. As it turns out, this is one of the few missions with a bit of a connection to GTA 3, and we even get to see a young, go-getting Donald Love working as some sort of understudy or something to the criminal teachings of Mr. Carrington. Donald doesn't actually get any lines in this scene, as Avery cuts him off very abruptly, but we do see where Don learns some of the shenanigans we saw him get up to in the previous game, like how to profit from a gang war, or even manufacture one.
You getting this down, you four-eyed prick?
So Avery wants us to dress up like a Cuban gangster from Little Havana and attack the funeral of a Haitian gang lord whom the Haitians already suspect was killed by a Cuban, thus provoking a full-scale conflict between the two groups. Well, there's no point in playing the part if we aren't going to commit all the way, so in addition to putting on the mandatory Cuban outfit for the mission, I also went ahead and carjacked a Cuban Hermes just to feel authentic. Now, I seem to remember fumbling on this mission quite a bit as a kid and having to deal with the various attacking Haitians, but this time around, I just did a drive-by and then boom, mission accomplished. Just gotta get out of Dodge. Oh right, so in case you didn't notice, by this point I've unlocked the second island, and thus the full map for exploration, which is pretty cool. A number of missions open up at this point, but you have a fair degree of freedom as to what order you tackle them in, at least each mission group, since missions from a specific character will always still be done in their intended order for story reasons. As I fled Little Haiti, I wanted to get out of my Cuban outfit as fast as I could, and I ended up in this. So I headed back to my apartment to change into something a bit more Tommy, and while I was there, I got this interesting phone call.
Hey, Leo, I got some work for you.
This ain't Leo.
Hey, if Leo knows you got his phone, he's gonna kill you.
Maybe Leo's already dead. Maybe I killed Leo and took his phone. Did you ever think of that, prick?
You kill Leo? You must have big cojones. Wanna work for me? Come by my father's cafe in Little Havana, and we'll talk mano y mano.
So at this point, after 2-bit hit, we have full access to a series of missions that are basically a side story that don't really connect to the main plot, when I look at them in hindsight, but nonetheless, they're certainly memorable. So because of the gang war we started for Avery, now the Haitians and Cubans are at each other's throats, and constantly looking for whatever ways they can to one-up the other side, including hiring third parties, such as our boy Tommy V. Now, when I played this game originally, I really had practically no idea what was going on with these missions, and to a certain extent, I kinda still don't. Now, you remember that chef we killed in like the second or third mission? Well, remember he was apparently moonlighting as an assassin, hence the assassination missions, and we still have his phone. When we get a phone call from the head of the Cuban gang, a wonderful chap named Umberto Robina, played by the outstanding Danny Trejo, initially he thinks we're the souffle assassin Leo Teal. When he learns that we killed Leo, he asks us to come work for him, so Tommy, naturally, agrees. When we go to actually meet the Cuban gang lord, for some reason, Tommy agrees to prove himself to Umberto, despite not really seeming at all endeared to him. In fact, maybe it's just me, but other than in like one scene, I always got the impression that Tommy doesn't like Umberto at all, but just tolerates him, being only slightly less aggressive than he would with, say, Ken, due to Umberto's size. Now, the other half of these missions are done for the Haitians under a lady called Auntie Poulet, also played by another famous actor, Miss Cleo. Anyway, it is strongly implied that somehow Auntie Poulet drugs Tommy and I guess hypnotizes him to do her bidding, which is weird, but at least kinda makes sense. Umberto and the Cubans, however, or at least Umberto, I don't really get why Tommy decides to help them, or risk his life on multiple occasions for their war, the one that he started. On second thought, maybe he felt guilty for starting the war in the first place, but then that doesn't really explain why he decides to side with the Cubans over the Haitians, unless Tommy is just racist. I don't know. Point is, this whole plotline is a bit odd, if thoroughly entertaining, and occasionally frustrating. So anyways, Tommy comes to Umberto's cafe, presumably just to get a freaking coffee, and Umberto almost immediately starts challenging Tommy's machismo, which he responds to with dry, insulting sarcasm, which actually seems to make Umberto like him. Machete asks us to prove how big our balls are by driving a speedboat through the city's canals, so off we go, I guess, where we meet the best character in the game, Rico, and head out to sea, port.
I like you a lot. Anytime, man, because you got cojones, and all my friends, they got big cojones.
This mission is literally a checkpoint race in a boat. It's dead simple. Okay, well maybe not always simple in execution, but very simple in concept. See, this is another one that I know used to screw me up plenty, mostly just because of the rings you have to hit after the ramps. As an adult, though, this mission is really easy. It feels like this is the game trying to advertise that it has a lot more boats to use this time around, but there aren't actually a whole lot of missions that use them, not to mention how risky it is using a boat when you're a middle-aged man who can't swim and you forgot your water wings at the apartment. So I did a rampage, grabbed some terrible food from the mall, bought myself a sniper rifle at the very same mall, and then decided it was about time Tommy got himself a real, legitimate job. So, he took up pizza delivery. So just like in GTA 3, there are a number of side missions that we can do to raise our health, armor, and give us infinite sprint and immunity to fire. In Vice City, the ambulance missions now give us infinite sprint, and these new pizza delivery missions increase our max health instead. Seeing as the game is only going to get harder from here, I thought it was about time I started to stack the odds in my favor. All these missions consist of is delivering pizzas to a set number of customers within the given time, but the absolute best part about this mission is how you deliver them. You use the company-provided scooter and then roll up on your customers, who are, of course, always waiting on the sidewalk, and then literally toss the pizza box directly at their heads. I love this. I wish this was how pizza delivery worked in real life. It would provide a little challenge for the customer, and speed up deliveries for the driver. Everybody wins! Alright, on second thought, maybe not. And I swear, if the real-life version gave the delivery drivers as tight of a window as they do in the game, you would really have to be ready for that scooter to drive by at Mach 1. These are super tight, like uncomfortably tight, especially at the beginning. The time limit is always 5 minutes, and each subsequent level adds more customers, meaning you basically have to plot your route as soon as you get the pizzas to avoid wasting time on the road. Also, this can happen.
That must mean it's spectacular.
Yes, but if you don't give money to VCPR...
Are you seeing this? The customer I have to deliver to is behind a gate that doesn't open until you finish a mission later. How the hell was I supposed to know about this beforehand? This is some BS right here. When this happened, I decided to come back and give the mission a try another time, since I did not feel like starting over from the start again. So, let's move on for now. Now that we've fulfilled our dream of doing back-breaking physical labor, it's time to go back and meet with our good friend, the South American war criminal, Juan Cortez. What does he want us to do this time? Oh, nothing. Just steal a piece of military hardware. He wants us to steal a tank for him. Jesus. See, it's only one tank too, so I get the impression Cortez literally wants this for, like, his personal tank collection or something. Not for troops he's putting on the battlefield. This just shows the dedication Tommy has to his friends. I mean, sure, Cortez pays you, but only like $2,000. Hold on, let's see here. $2,000 in 1986, adjusted for inflation, $4,600. I mean, for stealing a tank, this doesn't seem like fair compensation, but then again, what do I know? All you tank-stealing experts let me know. Did Cortez rip Tommy off? Anyway, this mission can actually be really hard. It's yet another one I remember failing a whole hell of a lot of times when I was young, but part of the reason is because this is actually one of the more open-ended objectives the game gives you. See, we gotta find this convoy being moved along the Oceanside Boulevard on the second island and, well, steal the tank. How exactly we go about doing that is entirely up to us, but there are some methods which are a lot easier and less hectic than others. As a kid, I would usually try to kill all of the soldiers, which would never go well for me since they were armed with Tier 3 M16s, and even though I was probably using cheats, I'd still get killed pretty fast. I have since learned there is a stupidly simple way to get this mission done, and it kinda ruins it once you know about it, though not entirely. See, eventually the convoy stops so they can get donuts, naturally, and for whatever reason the sergeant sends the tank driver to grab the donuts, giving us the perfect opportunity to run in and grab it. If you try to just run up, get inside, and drive away with full health hoping your armor and health points last long enough to get moving, you'll be sorely disappointed since the doors are locked until they get to the coffee shop. Once you're inside the tank, it's game over. For them, I mean. See, unlike GTA San Andreas and pretty much every GTA after that, the tank in GTA 3 and Vice City is completely invincible. You can be arrested still, and kinda easily if the door falls off, but you cannot be destroyed. It's practically impossible. So we drive the tank to Cortez's private lockup, and just like that, the US military and intelligence services give up the chase and let us go scot-free. How polite of them. So before I go into the gang war side story, I decided to tackle a bunch of the side missions. Mostly just because having access to extra armor, some free weapons, and a bunch of money are all going to help a lot in the second half of the game, especially the money. See, eventually we'll have to buy a bunch of properties to unlock some missions, only one of which we can skip. So, long story short, we're broke, and we need a get-rich-quick scheme. Lucky for me, then, that in Vice City you can steal a cop car and arrest wanted criminals, and the state will pay you for it, even without a badge. Actually, before I tried the vigilante missions, I wanted to do the paramedic missions, which give you infinite sprint, but I was apparently having an off day, and when I realized the ambulances near the hospitals are always locked, I gave up and moved on to other things. To get an ambulance you can actually use, you have to steal one that responds to a scene, usually that you create yourself. Instead, I gave the pizza deliveries another shot, and this time I actually got it. Well, okay, it took me another 2 tries, but the point is I got it done. Also, I bought a new property around this time, this one here near the mall in Vice Point. It's one of the only other properties with a garage for storing vehicles, and it's not too expensive, so it's best to pick this up as soon as you can. If you like saving cars, that is. Anyway, next it was time to try and do the vigilante missions to unlock some extra armor, which meant clearing 12 levels without dying, and that is no easy feat under normal circumstances. See, if you try and do vigilante in just a cop car, pretty soon you're going to have cops chasing you while you chase the criminals, meaning you got to know where all the wanted bribes are to reduce your stars because you can't respray emergency vehicles. Well, I gave it at least one try like that, but I knew before it started it's kinda hopeless. The real way to do vigilante missions in Vice City is to use the tank, which if you remember is basically invincible, or to use the hunter attack helicopter. With either of these, the missions are a breeze, and all you gotta worry about is not getting busted if you're using the tank, or crashing if you're using the helicopter. So I decided to try and get my hands on a tank, and to do that, I would have to get 6 stars. Let me tell you, I did not remember it being this hard to get 6 stars on foot outside of missions. I rampaged a good couple of times around the Ocean View Hotel, killed dozens and dozens of officers, but never once got that final star. Eventually I gave up trying to get the tank and tried it in a cop car like I said before, but, well, like I said before, it didn't go well. I actually died for the first time here while trying to unlock the tank too, which always sucks. Don't you hate getting like halfway through a game without dying and then the first death happens? Jeez. I don't think they ended up being counted in my stats since I cheekily reloaded my saves to save time by hauling my ass to the ammunition across town to try again, but still, I know, you know? So, ultimately I failed to get a tank. In America. I thought this was the land of the free. I was lied to. Actually, I went and tried the first Haitian gang mission at this point, Juju Scramble, but failed it when it took too damn long, and we'll come back to that in a bit. I also figured out how to get my hands on an ambulance by this time and gave the paramedic missions a try, but I made one fatal mistake. Ironic. See, I forgot that in paramedic, you have to keep your ambulance from becoming too damaged and do all 12 levels with the same vehicle. Remember, emergency vehicles cannot be resprayed and thus repaired at a pay and spray, so that's not an option. And here I am thinking the rules were the same as Vigilante. See, in Vigilante, if you get out of your vehicle, you have 30 seconds to find a new one, but in Paramedic, if you get out of the vehicle, you just instantly fail. Great. I was kind of pissed at this point, and I didn't end up finishing the Paramedic missions, but what I did do is a bunch more taxi missions to try and make some money. I think taxi missions are my favorite side mission in the old GTAs, simply because you can listen to the radio while you're driving your customers around town like a maniac, whereas for Vigilante, Paramedic, and Firefighter missions, yep, those are a thing too. In those, all you have to listen to while you play is your damn siren, and that gets annoying pretty damn quick. And then I kinda decided to cheat. Though not in the traditional way. See, in case you didn't know, in the old GTA games there were hidden packages scattered around the map. Usually 100 in total, though in San Andreas it kind of had its own little system. Anyway, for every 10 packages you find, you would unlock a weapon or armor at your safe house, which would infinitely respawn and save you both time and money whenever you needed weapons. Now, in the GTA games which take place in Liberty City, the bonuses from the hidden packages are a little bit more fairly blocked off until you unlock all 3 sections of the map. But in Vice City, well, there's only 2 halves to unlock, and you get access to the second island before you even reach the game's halfway point, so I decided I would collect all 100 hidden packages and use the wonderful gifts bestowed upon me by Rockstar to rip through the rest of the game's missions, and, well, it mostly worked. Mostly. The cheating part comes more so from the fact that I used a guide to see where on the map I could find each package. I didn't outright read or watch exactly what I had to do to get each one, but still, it's kinda cheating, isn't it? Yeah, it is. In my defense, I'm lazy and I did not want to spend hours upon hours searching every inch of the game to find these things. Some of them are kinda easy to stumble upon if you're exploring, but some of them are really well hidden and would take me a ridiculous amount of time to find without a guide. If you already own Harmon condos or have the mansion, you just use a helicopter to speed up your journey all across the entire map, but if you don't, you're going to have to find a heli at some point, as some of the packages require one to reach. The single most annoying hidden package to get was this one, out here on one of these floating platforms near Ocean Beach Marina. It's not that it's particularly hard to get there, the problem is you are forced to do a rampage before you can collect it, and this rampage tasks you with blowing up a bunch of boats using an RPG. Okay, so the real problem is that I suck. That and the game's hitbox for the RPG is ridiculously wide, or tall, or whatever. It's really easy to blow yourself up here is my point. See, the geometry of this broken wooden platform has all these poles around the edges, and their hitboxes are much larger than they are. So it ended up taking me like 5 tries to get this rampage out of the way, just so I could grab this stupid collectible. Jesus. After getting all 100, you also get a nice $100,000 bonus, which will certainly help with buying all the property soon. But I also spent some of it on another property in downtown Vice City, Harmon Condos. Now, I never realized this before this playthrough, but this is easily the best property in the game. All of your hidden package weapons spawn here, a helicopter spawns on the rooftop, and you get tons of garage space for storing vehicles. It's way better than the mansion we get later on, but I'm spoiling things again. So one of the things you unlock from doing all of the 100 hidden packages is also a tank that spawns at the military base, and a hunter attack helicopter that supposedly spawns there, and at another helipad on Ocean Beach. I say supposedly because I swear it never spawned for me. Maybe it's my version or some weird glitch, or maybe I'm just missing something, but I never saw it at Fort Baxter, and I never saw it at that helipad next to Lance's house from Vice City Stories, which is supposedly where it spawns. Oop, more spoilers. What did spawn, though, is my precious Rhino tank, which was just fine. It just meant vigilante missions were going to take even longer. They did, but not that long. Especially because the tanks in these old GTAs, specifically 3 and Vice City, have a special ability. Ludicrous speed! Go! Yeah, as many of you probably know, pointing the tank's gun behind you in these games and firing non-stop gives you what seems to be an infinite increase in speed over time. This makes getting to your targets a lot easier, but it also taught me something I never knew, or forgot. Remember how I said tanks in this game were practically impossible to blow up? Yeah, you can definitely destroy these things. All you gotta do is flip them over, and like any car in the 3D era...
She was an escort. You ain't never had a real broad in your life. She was my girlfriend, pal. I didn't have to make her.
I'm sure there are other ways you could accidentally flip the tank over, but this was the first time I'd done it, so remember kids, when using a heavy munitions cannon to accelerate your vehicle, be safe. Something else that happened as I was finishing up the vigilante missions that I'm pretty sure was just a bug related to one of my mods or the PC version in general was that the game continued to generate new levels after 12. Normally, I think, when you do all 12 levels, or however many side missions it has, the mission is just over, and then you can do it all over again if you want to, for extra cash. This time, though, I moved on to Vigilante level 13, which was weird. I continued to complete them for a while, but I pretty quickly got solid confirmation that this was, indeed, a bug. Whoa, what the hell is going on here? So remember that gang war we started for Avery? Well, it's time to finish what we started. Like I said before, you can actually save these missions for well into the second half of the game, but you can also do the whole mission thread as soon as you get the first call from Umberto, so that's what I opted to do this time around. So the only thing I've shown you so far is when Tommy meets Umberto and does the speedboat challenge, but like I said during the side missions, I did do one other mission by this point, the first Haitian mission, Juju Scramble. I also mentioned before that as far as we can tell, Tommy willingly involves himself with the Cubans, but the Haitians seem to have found a way to drug Tommy and, mind control him, somehow. I guess it's kinda fitting, seeing as Auntie Poulet here is voiced by Miss Cleo, but it's all pretty weird, and maybe part of the reason Vice City had controversy surrounding its depiction of Haitians around the time of release. Anyway, so Auntie hypnotizes us into finding several stashes of definitely not drugs before the police do, so off we go, I guess. So you go to the first stash location and collect it, and immediately get targeted by law enforcement, even though, remember, it's definitely not drugs. Basically, we gotta do this 3 times, with our wanted level increasing with each pickup, and then rush it all back to Auntie Poulet after collecting the third, where the cops will naturally give up their chase. I definitely remember dying a lot on this mission as a kid, and I did fail at least once, but once you know what you're doing, it's not that bad. All you gotta do is haul ass and not screw around fighting the cops. Next is the first mission that really benefits from having already done the hidden packages, and thus, having a minigun, cannon fodder. See, the war between the Cubans and the Haitians is escalating, and Umberto is trying to take down a Haitian drug factory, but his men are having little success, so he calls us in as backup, sort of. Actually, he calls us to drive his backup, but we all know how this is gonna go. If you aren't well armed coming into this mission, this can be pretty damn hard, as most of the bad guys are using tier 2 or 3 weapons, at least, and there's a sniper, who is actually a lot easier to deal with no matter what gun you have if you're on PC, since the auto-aim has a limited range, if I remember right, but then again, so do the actual guns, so maybe I'm wrong. None of that matters though, because I have a goddamn minigun. Yeah, this gun is so overpowered that it almost breaks a bunch of the missions, but again, in my defense, it's just so much fun to use. Anyway, we kill a whole bunch of Haitian gangsters and then steal one of their vans full of drugs and return it to Umberto at the cafe. Another job well done. And just to keep the back and forth going, then I ran over to see Auntie Poulet to get yet another mission involving using a remote-controlled vehicle to commit terrorism. This time it's an RC plane, not a helicopter though, and what she wants us to do is bomb a Cuban drug deal using explosives attached to the underside of the planes. Man, these Haitians had drone warfare figured out like a decade before the US government did. Not bad. This is another mission, yet another mission, that I remember being a lot harder than it actually turned out to be. You know, I'm starting to notice a pattern. I'm starting to think that as much as I suck at video games now, I sucked even more when I was a kid, which, go figure. I guess that means overall I have been getting better, so whoopee, but not by much, and not in all cases. I mean, I still get destroyed in most multiplayer games I try to play online, and I know there was a time when that wasn't the case, so I just don't know. I'm getting distracted. Point is, we drop a bunch of bombs on unsuspecting Cubans and call it a day. You know what that means then. It's time to turn around and go do another job for the Cubans to balance the scales. Next up is naval engagement, and the cutscene for this one is another one that kind of implies to me that Tommy and Umberto bonded or something off screen, since at no point in the brief cutscenes do we see any compelling reason why Tommy continues to assist the Cubans. Sure, Umberto pays, but not that well considering what business Tommy's in. I don't know, maybe I'm insane, but the goal of this mission is to, big shocker, hit a bunch of Haitians as they make a drug deal in a very similar spot to the Cuban deal in Bombs Away. This time, though, the Cubans will get up close and then we just have to wipe out all the forces standing in our way. Without the use of the trusty minigun, I know this mission is normally a lot harder, but with it, it's, again, pretty easy. Kill the boats, kill the dudes on the boats, then kill the dudes on the land. Simple. I did get a bit of a wanted level in the process, but that's nothing. What's next? I'll tell you what's next. One of the most bullshit missions in the game, that's what. Well, it can be anyway. Supposedly, this is the last mission we have to do for the Haitians, and then Auntie Poulet will stop drugging us to do her bidding. But that kind of begs the question for me of, if she's able to mind control people, how in the hell is she losing a relatively small-scale drug war to a dumbass like Umberto, a guy who regularly drinks coffee? If Tommy was this easy to hypnotize, I can't imagine Umberto being more difficult. Anyways, so we gotta snipe a bunch of Cubans as the Haitians fight them off in the middle of the street, and the BS for this mission comes in the form of how easily the Haitians can die. Seriously, you gotta be quick, and I mean quick, killing every single bad guy you can, otherwise the Haitians will get completely destroyed. Huh. I guess that's why they needed Tommy's help in the first place. Anyway, after a few tries, I finally managed to pass this mission with literally one Haitian gangster left standing, but hey, it counts. Which means, it's time to go see Umberto one more time to close off this mission thread completely. So for this final mission of the Cuban-Haitian storyline, we're going to go and hit that Haitian drug factory we attacked earlier, and this time, decommission it for good. So we steal a couple of Haitian gang vehicles and drive right into the compound, since apparently the guards are completely blind and or stupid and don't see their literal arch rivals in the cars, or the guy in the standout Hawaiian shirt. Contrivance or not, we get inside and immediately have to start fighting off Haitians to reach 3 detonation timers inside. Well, actually, you can ignore most of the dudes outside and let the Cubans deal with them. Most. But once you kill the guys inside and plant the bombs, I hope you know where you're going when you run out. I don't, for the life of me, remember exactly how I did this when I was young, but it seems to me I would have had to fail at least once, since I rediscovered that the window for escaping after planting the bombs is not quite generous enough. The first time I did it, I had no idea how to get clear of the factory, and when I did figure out you need to use the stairs alongside another building to reach the rooftops, I didn't actually remember doing it this way, so I'm not sure what's going on here. This really does feel like a you have to do it once and fail in order to beat it kind of a mission, which is pretty annoying, but it's also meant to be one of the harder missions in the game so far, so maybe it's fair game. Anyway, after blowing the Haitians' drug factory up, we earn the respect and admiration of Umberto and the Cubans, and inversely, the scorn and hatred of Auntie Poulet and the Haitians. In fact, from now on, Haitian gangsters will sometimes attack us on sight in their territory, which can completely ruin your day if it happens at the wrong time during the wrong mission, so be careful. So now that we've started and ended a gang war we have nothing to do with, it's time to return to our own affairs. I gotta wonder, at this point, if I had to guess, I'd say at least 2 or 3 weeks of in-game time had passed from all my running around collecting hidden packages and being a civil servant, so I'd have to think that Mr. Forelli back in Florida is getting rather impatient. And he is! But we have bigger fish to fry, like Diaz. Yeah, so all the gang war missions unlock a little bit after you can start working for Diaz, so he's just been waiting for us to come over like the patient and understanding man that he is.
Not so pleased with yourselves now, huh?
Right. So he wants us to steal him a boat. He says it's because he wants to have the fastest smuggling boat in Florida, but I think he just wants it to have it, since one single fast boat likely wouldn't make the difference in a drug smuggling operation. At least, I don't think. This mission is pretty simple, and since we have a lot of big guns, it's even easier. All we gotta do is head over to the docks in Viceport and kill a bunch of thugs, so we can hit a switch and release the boat. These guys do carry assault rifles though, so if you come here underprepared or not carrying a freaking minigun, then they can give you a hard time, but seeing as I did, it's not really a problem. After all that, we gotta just drive the boat back to Diaz's mansion while the cops chase us, but since the Marina police aren't exactly as aggressive as their land-based brethren, it barely makes a difference. So I was headed to go do the next Diaz mission right away, but doing this mission also unlocks the next assassination, so I decided to take a quick detour and go hear from Mr. Black. This time we'll be assassinating bank robbers, of all things, since Mr. Black's employers would rather a group of European criminals not succeed with their planned robbery. This one is on a time limit, and you have to kill several different people spread all across the city as quickly as possible, so it really helps to have good weapons when starting this one. The first guy you gotta kill is right around the corner too, so as long as you have a sniper rifle, you can take him out nice and quick and move on. A fast car, a sniper, and a heavy weapon, that's all you really need for this one. The next guy tries to make a run for it using a secure car, but once again, minigun. And the rest of the targets don't fare much better. Some guys by the jewelry store from the last assassination, minigun. Guy on the boat off the coast of the Washington Beach, minigun. Okay, actually I used the sniper, but I'm sure you could use the minigun if you got close enough. And the last guy on his motorbike, you could just shoot from your car or run over. Done. Alright, it's back to Luis Guzman. So, now that Mr. Diaz is starting to trust us, he wants us to be drug dealers for him by using the boat we got in the last mission to reach a freelancer before anyone else does and buy his product. Diaz scratches his crotch with a Desert Eagle and sends us off to meet our backup for the mission, Lance. Yeah, it's about time this guy showed up again. Granted, him being particularly interested in Diaz and leaving Tommy to his own affairs otherwise made sense, but still. So, he's gonna shoot for us while we drive the boat, and we gotta get there before any of the other smugglers, since this freelancer is apparently selling the good stuff. I say this because boats are literally lined up to reach him like a newly opened McDonald's at a mini-mall. Must be some good shit. This mission in theory shouldn't be all that hard, but the first half suffers from one annoying problem. Lance. See, if you take the intended route, Lance can die pretty easily during this first half when you're the one driving the boat, and not just to the bad guys shooting at you. See, I made a classic GTA mistake and assumed the game wouldn't screw me in a situation where it easily could. That being, trying to shoot back at the other boats while using the drive-by mechanic. Do you see the problem? Yeah, Lance is standing right in the path of my bullets. So instead of aiming his gun around Lance's head or behind it or something, he just turns to his immediate left and fires indiscriminately, killing Lance almost instantly. Fantastic. He can also die if something like this happens. Ah, what the hell? But thankfully, eventually, I navigate all the jank and make it to the boat where the roles switch and Lance starts driving while I shoot. This half is way easier than the first half, simply because Lance's big fat head isn't always in the way. Though I do think you can still kill him here if you just aim your gun down, though I don't know why you would. You gotta take down several boats and a freaking helicopter since these dealers are hardcore, and as long as your boat doesn't take too much damage in the process, you make it back to Diaz's in one place to find a duplicate of the fastest boat. Huh. I guess now it's the fastest boats. Alright, moving on. So, by this point, we already know that Diaz is the guy we're going after, and we've been working for him for a while, earning his trust and working on taking him down from the inside. Cool, calm, collected, playing things real safe and waiting for our moment to shine.
Yo, Tommy, it's Lance.
Yeah?
Oh, nice to hear from you, Lance. Come on, man, be cool, be cool.
I'm in the middle of something. What do you want?
Nothing. Just to say, look, Tommy, we can do this thing, you and me, no problem. You know what I mean?
We're going to have to do it, because otherwise we're going to be dead, Lance. We're in too far now. But thanks for the call. Speak to you later.
Well, that's a bit concerning. He seems on edge. I hope that doesn't affect our carefully crafted plan to take Diaz down.
Alright, me old China. It's Paul. I might have a little result for you, but I need to speak to you in person. I'm enjoying a little R&R at the Club Malibu. I reckon you're going to owe me a favour or two out of this, sunshine. I'll see you later.
Oh, Lord. So to be fair, Diaz did kill Lance's brother, so his eagerness to stop working for Diaz and just kill him already does make sense. It makes even more sense if you played Vice City Stories first, though that seems highly unlikely. I bet it would make for an interesting first-time experience playing this if you had, though. So we go see our good buddy Kent Paul at the Malibu Club, and he tells us, in what I presume is English, that Lance tried to hit Diaz early, and got himself kidnapped and brought to the city junkyard, where he is now being tortured. Great. Now this mission can be very, very tough, even if you have all the weapons, because the goal isn't just to reach Lance and kill all the attackers, but to then escort him safely to a hospital, which is the real challenge. So you drive all the way over there, and you gotta work your way through like a dozen Diaz soldiers, all using at least tier 2 guns or better, including at least one sniper. This part isn't so bad though, as long as you take your time and you come well armed. The annoying part is just after. We reach Lance, untie him, and give him a gun, and now we gotta drive him out of the junkyard and safely reach the downtown hospital. Which sounds super easy, but it's not. See, the guys who come after you are super aggressive and will ram your car into flames pretty damn quickly, which is why I usually use the garbage truck that spawns inside the junkyard, but for whatever reason, it despawned on me this time, meaning all I had was this crappy Sentinel, an average sedan with no extra armor. I knew we'd get wrecked pretty quickly trying to get away from this, so I took what I thought was my next best option, shooting down the attackers with my minigun. It didn't work out. So now knowing that the garbage truck could just disappear, the next time I took my own transportation, a Securicar, which is similarly armored, and I hoped it would be enough to plow through the attacking Diaz goons. It despawned. God damn it. So I tried the minigun plan again, and this time it worked. I just had to hang back a bit more to avoid Lance getting insta-killed, and take a few side streets to avoid any more chasing us. Well, I guess Diaz knows our true intentions now. We should probably deal with that ASAP. But I wonder how our buddy Juan is doing.
Tommy, Tomas, it's Cortez. Look, the French are giving me all kinds of trouble, amigo. Them hypocrites. They spend 100 years stealing from poor countries, and they call me a thief, huh? I'm going to need your help as soon as possible, amigo. So please hurry, huh? Tommy, I need you, alright? I hate the damn French.
I mean, when a friend calls and he says he needs help right away, we know what we gotta do. So I head over to the Ocean Beach Marina for what is unfortunately the final Colonel Cortez mission. All hands on deck, and normally, it's quite the finisher. See, Cortez has decided to get away from Vice City given his recent actions against international governments, with our help, and is starting to draw more attention than he's comfortable with, and thus he needs our help once again, of course, to safely escape since the French would really like to kill him. But see, remember how I said the minigun kinda breaks a number of missions in this game? Well, there is almost no better example than this one. Normally, you have to fight off several waves of attacking Frenchmen, and it culminates in a battle against a freaking hunter attack helicopter, which you likely wouldn't have access to and probably wouldn't have even seen in the game until now. Even though I should have. But when you have a minigun, the entire game of defense is stupid easy. Because I destroy the boats or helicopters before any of them can send troops on board, there's never any fighting on the deck, and when it comes to the part where we have to destroy the barricade or fight the hunter, it's over so fast that the game gets a bit confused and stalls for a minute before finally triggering the last cutscene.
Oh my god, they've got a helicopter!
Also, the hunter literally landed on me, and I thought it would kill me, which frankly would have been even funnier. Cortez gives us his personal dinghy so we can reach the shore, and asks Tommy to look after Mercedes while he's away, and with that, we see the last of one of my favorite GTA side characters in the 3D universe. Bon voyage, mon ami. Oh, awkward choice of language there. Alright, it's finally time to go take down Diaz, which means we gotta first meet Lance on the bridge to Starfish Island, since he's got some special weapons to help us out. Now granted, this is a great cutscene, and unless you've found pickups, this might be your first chance to use the M4 or M16 or whatever, the Tier 3 assault rifle, but I already have a minigun, so the weight of this moment was considerably less than it should have been. Actually, I didn't even rush through minigunning everything to death. I used the sniper rifle to kill a lot of the enemies early, since A, I know the route, and B, Lance can once again get his dumbass killed pretty easily. Once we reach the inside of the mansion, we get a sort of boss battle against Diaz, who has slightly more hit points than the average foot soldier, but when you're facing a minigun, the difference is negligible. Tommy switches to a Magnum for the cutscene though, which I gotta say is probably more suitable, and definitely more Hollywood. With 2 final shots to the head, Tommy and Lance put Diaz down for good, and Tommy becomes the new kingpin of drug dealing in Vice City. Now comes the fun part. So Tommy takes over Diaz's former empire, and in order to cement his new status as Diaz's replacement, comes up with a very simple plan to let everyone know who's boss. Shakedown might be one of the best missions in the game actually, and the premise is, as usual, really quite simple. We head over to the North Point Mall and kill 11 birds with 1 stone? If by birds you mean shopfronts and by stone you mean minigun. You gotta break up the windows of a bunch of shops spread across the mall, and as you do, you'll likely accumulate a bit of a wanted level, meaning you'll have to deal with the army of Paul Blarts. It's a lot of fun to break these windows and just go crazy while the soothing muzak plays in the background, but all good things must come to an end. After this mission though, we now have access to the property buying half of the game, where we buy up assets around town and complete missions for them in order to unlock the game's finale. Well, seeing as I already had like $360,000 thanks to some of the side missions I'd done, and the hidden packages bonus, which also meant that I wasn't spending much on guns and ammunition, I decided to start buying up properties like a madman. I bought the Malibu Club first, because of course, then the Pole Position Strip Club, and then... Hold on. If I remember right, all you have to do for the strip club asset is like watch a horrible 2002 Polygon stripper dance for a minute or something. Maybe I'll do that now.
2 hours later.
Jesus Christ, how long do I have to watch this? Okay, I'm exaggerating a bit. It wasn't literally 2 hours, but I entered and left this little private dance a bunch of times thinking, oh, that must have been enough, only to find out that no, it wasn't. It is only like 5 minutes total you need to watch, but it felt like way more. I was only like 6 in 2002 and probably played this game for the first time closer to 2003, so I would have been a little older, but let's just say at age 7, I wasn't really fascinated by 3D polygonal boobs. Maybe you were, I don't know your life, but I wasn't, and 20 years later, I gotta say it's still not really doing much for me compared to the real thing. I can't remember exactly what unlocks it, in fact it might be buying the Pole Position Club, but by now we also have access to the best outfit in the game, the Mr. Vercetti outfit, which fully embraces the game's Scarface ambitions with the Tony Montana black pinstripe getup. The next asset I bought was another one that I knew could be completed pretty quickly, the Boatyard. I didn't know this until years later, but the 2 stoner stereotype dudes you meet here are actually the mechanics Dwayne and Jethro from GTA San Andreas. I mean, hell, maybe I did know it back then because I was kind of deep into the GTA lore, so to speak, but when I relearned this as an adult, I was like... Anyway, all we gotta do for the Boatyard asset is basically replay the mission's Stunt Boat Challenge. I mean, yeah, technically it's a little bit different, but really, it's exactly the same. Just drive the boat through a couple checkpoints and boom, $2,000 of regular income. I wish making money in real life was that easy. Then again, I guess maybe it is if you're a mob boss who makes passive income off of his rackets. So next, I decided I would give the movie studio a try over on Prawn Island, even though I knew that at least one of the missions in this mission thread could be pretty hard. After actually buying it though, I was reminded that it wasn't just the last mission that would present me with some obstacles. Enter Recruitment Drive. Now what you gotta do here is find and recruit Candy Sucks, yes, that is apparently her name, and later good old Mercedes Cortez to work for Steve Scott at the movie studio. Mercedes won't be a problem, but Candy is another matter. See, if you'd been paying attention real close to the radio or Colonel Cortez's party, you might have picked up on the fact that she has a relationship with the Congressman Alex Shrub, and on top of that, seems to have quite an aggressive agent who also fancies himself a pimp, I guess. So Candy gets dropped off by Shrub, and then her agent shows up and sends goons after us, and we gotta take them all down, including the agent who drives away in his car. Now, if you're quick, and you don't suck, you can just gun them down with a minigun before you can go anywhere, but if you're like me, you'll cause so much chaos that you end up in a chase across downtown in a cop car that has all 4 tires burst. You'll actually manage to kill the agent and make it all the way back to Candy, only for this to happen. Okay, this is hilarious, but I'll admit it, this one pissed me off a bit. I didn't want to replay it right away. What else have we got?
Tommy, son, have I got a surprise for you? I'm down at recording studios with some major artists. Why don't you pay us a visit? You know it makes sense, don't ya? See you later.
Oh, Lord. So taking a quick detour from the asset missions, I decided to start another mission thread that we get access to thanks to our good friend Kent Paul. See, in case you didn't pick up on the vibe, Paul is looking to attach himself to Tommy and earn his favor due to his rising status as the city's new criminal kingpin, and in pursuant of this, Paul offers us a chance to meet and work for the Scottish band Love Fist at their downtown studio where Paul is working with them on their next record. So of course we gotta go meet him, and when we arrive at the studio, Tommy actually seems genuinely happy to meet the band, as he is apparently a fan of their music, but in order to make that music, Love Fist needs a little love juice. What is love juice, you ask? Why, that's simple. It's
2 parts boomshine, 1 part trumpet, 5 fizz bombs, and a litre of petrol. Can you help us out, pal?
Right. I can get that, I think. Actually, luckily for us, there is apparently already a love juice dealer in Vice City whom we can buy it off of. And he's gonna meet us just down the street. How convenient. Well, this seems completely legitimate and fair. Let's go meet this fellow salesman of illegal medicinal products.
Looking for something special? I got what you need. Thanks for the money, sucker.
Hey, it's just Sam Hauser. And he took my money without giving me my drugs. So I kill him, take it back, and now that we have their drugs, the band just wants some company, and we happen to know just the girl who may be interested in getting to know them. Again, for those who don't know, Mercedes here was meant to have a larger role in the game, or at least more appearances and a more fleshed out relationship with Tommy, but likely due to the speed with which Vice City was developed, a lot of it was scrapped, and missions like this one, and the ones for the porn studio, are some of the only times we see her beyond her initial appearance at Colonel's party. It didn't actually happen in this playthrough, but I have a fond memory of doing the second half of the mission where you go and pick Mercedes up and drive her to the studio, because once, I arrived at her apartment in a helicopter which I crashed as I tried to land it. So there Tommy is, talking to her with a giant smoldering helicopter wreck behind him. It was pretty funny. Then we hopped on an electric scooter and off we went. Anyway, we deliver her to the studio, and that's the first Kent Paul / Love Fist mission down, but I think for now, I'll return to doing the assets. So my next stop was buying an innocent little ice cream company to grow Tommy's legitimate empire. As it turns out though, the absolutely insane woman already running the company has found a way to make even ice cream sinister. Drug dealing. Huh. Not what I would have guessed. Well, we'll tackle this later. We still got cash to burn, which means it's time to go buy the most important story asset in the game, the printing press, which... You know, I guess I kind of thought that after doing the hidden packages and plenty of vigilante missions, I would have enough money to buy all the assets. Well, I was very wrong. Then again, printing press is one of the more expensive assets, and we already bought the most expensive one, the Malibu Club, so it shouldn't be too bad getting the money we need for the rest. After realizing I couldn't buy the printing press yet, I decided to instead buy the Kaufman Cab Company in Little Haiti, which was a little bit cheaper. But after that, I was basically broke, with barely enough money to arm myself to the teeth for another day living in America. What a crime. Well, after a long day of spending money on illicit front companies for Tommy's growing empire, I decided it was time to head back to the Malibu Club for a little R&R, and to plan a massive bank heist, naturally. It's here that we finally get the true return of Mr. Ken Rosenberg, the man, the myth, the legend, who has spent the last several weeks, months, whatever, becoming hopelessly addicted to cocaine. I think it's worth mentioning for those who don't know this that Ken is actually heavily based on Sean Penn's portrayal of the character Dave Kleinfeld from the Brian De Palma movie Carlito's Way, who also had a massive cocaine addiction. To be fair, in Carlito's Way, Kleinfeld is basically the catalyst for all the bad shit that happens to Al Pacino's character, where Ken is much less destructive to those around him, and instead mostly just focuses on himself. Good for you, Ken, old buddy. Anyway, since we own the Malibu Club, we have access to the asset missions, which in this case involve Tommy personally planning a heist of a bank in Little Havana with a hilarious name. Seriously, it basically translates to the Big Corrupt Bank. I love it. So before robbing a bank, naturally, we need a crew, which in Tommy's mind starts with a proper safecracker, and who better to get leads from on Vice City criminals than Vice City's criminal lawyer? Ken points us in the direction of a guy named Cam Jones, but as it turns out, Mr. Jones is currently being held at the Washington Beach police station, and therefore not in the best position to help us out. And you know what that means. It's time for a jailbreak.
Somewhere in this town.
Now, something I learned here is you don't actually have to complete the mission Copland, which gives you access to the police uniform, to do this mission the easier way. The outfit is actually fully accessible in this mission with or without having done Copland, and if you don't use it, get ready for a brutal fight against basically the entire police force. So we grab the outfit in the locker room and stroll into the building to find a keycard, then head on down to the holding cells to free Cam. This time around, I had the foresight to put a car right outside the door for an easy escape, since my last gung-ho attempt didn't exactly pan out too well, but this time, I'm ready. Nothing can stop me now. Alright, come on, get in the car, Cam. Get in the... God damn it! Okay, so third time's the charm. I get the cop outfit, grab the keycard, free Cam, and then bust him out. Jump in the car and run like hell. Boom. Now we got ourselves a safecracker. Alright, well, there's no need for a sense of urgency on a bank robbery, so it's time to go sell drugs to children. I mean, ice cream. I mean, drugs to adults. Yeah. Back at the Cherry Popper Ice Cream Factory, we get what is one of the easier assets to complete, where all we have to do is drive this innocent little ice cream truck around town and distribute illegal drugs from it, taking care not to be arrested by any cops who might have witnessed our transactions. Basically, you just gotta let the truck's jingle play around the pedestrians and they will magically become drug addicts, looking for their latest fix. And it seems to work just about everywhere. In fact, I figured out pretty quickly that the game doesn't start converting peds into customers until the truck stops moving, and it resets when you move enough, allowing you to cheese a single area for farming customers, and to get the asset completed pretty quickly. You do gotta be careful of cops though. I failed this at least once because I was doing the aforementioned farming method, and I got careless when a single officer walked up and busted me. Always trying to keep a guy down, eh, officer? Well, I only had to learn that lesson once because after that I got back to work and completed the required 50 sales to get the weekly asset payouts. Actually, I ended up deciding that the farmy, cheesy method isn't even really worth it since you have to watch all angles for incoming cops, and you don't have full camera control in this game. Instead, what I ended up doing was getting a bunch of customers in one area until I got 1 star, and then drove around until I lost it, since 1 star is the only wanted level that I'm aware of that can be lost without using a pay and spray. Anyway, that's 1 more down and a lot more to go. Sometime after completing the mission Love Juice, we also unlock a side thread to Ken Paul's Love Fist missions, the Biker missions. See, despite all we've done for him and how nicely we've treated him, Paul won't just give us some backstage passes to Love Fist's upcoming tour. No. Instead, we have to first secure some, security for the gig, and the guys Paul has in mind were Big Mitch's biker gang. So we get yet another celebrity performance for Baker in the form of Lee Majors, and he tells us that if he wants a favor for Ken Paul, we'll have to first earn the right to join his biker gang, which means running a variety of mostly violent errands, of course. Our first task is to prove that we can handle a bike in a race around downtown against several other members of the club, and let me tell you, of all missions I expected to have a hard time with, this was not one of them. I guess I kinda forgot, but this mission can be absolutely brutal if you aren't careful with your bike. See, the handling on each bike is slightly different, and if you spin out at too hard an angle, you're liable to go flying off the dang thing, and maybe it's just me, but the Harley-type bike that Mitch's club is most fond of seems to be the worst in this regard. It's not a particularly hard race, it's just that if you mess up too soon, or really at all, you probably won't have enough time to catch up to the main pack, or at least, I didn't seem to. Really, all you gotta do is get good at pulling hard turns on the bike using the handbrake. Once you got that down, there's only a few tight turns you gotta conquer, and a lot of the time the NPCs struggle to not fall off too, so just stay steady, pay attention to where the next checkpoint is, and you'll get through it eventually. Also, no, you can't just kill all the bikers at the start for an easy victory. I tried that. Well, we haven't gotten the band's concert security just yet, but we're getting there. In the meantime, let's go drop in on them and see how they're holding up. As it turns out, the answer is not well. Being international superstars, there are naturally people who wish Love Fist were dead, and even fewer who would actually try to kill them if given the chance. And wouldn't you know it, one such individual is apparently planning to assassinate the group at their upcoming signing, which they heard through the grapevine, I guess? Point is, we gotta stop this assassin before they get the chance, so we're gonna drive off to the signing in the official Love Fist limo, and then trick them into thinking the band has arrived, then catch them off guard. Well, actually, that was seemingly the plan, but the assassin almost instantly just fires off into the crowd and runs to their car without even trying to fire at the limo or see if the band was there, so I'm not entirely sure what their plan was. Well, it doesn't matter, because we catch them, blow up their car, and once again, save the day. all in a day's work. Oh crap, right, the bank heist. I knew there was something I was forgetting. Well, now that Love Fist is safe again for the time being, we might as well go see about recruiting our next team member for that robbery. This time, a seasoned and professional gunman.
Come here. Let me squeeze the fart out of you.
Well, seasoned anyway. So, our last recruit, Cam Jones, points us in the direction of a guy he deems to be one of the best shots in the city, Phil Cassidy, who is once again voiced by a celebrity, the almighty Gary Busey, who I feel like didn't even need to act very hard to voice Phil.
Shh.
This mission is super easy since all it is the target practice minigame, which you can play at any point in the downtown ammunition after completing this mission. You gotta get enough points between the 3 rounds, and then Phil will agree to join your team. And unless you're a really bad shot, I don't think you'll have too much of a problem with this one. I mean, I didn't, and I'm terrible at these games, so take that for what it's worth. Now that we have Phil recruited, all we need is a driver, and this time it's straight back to the Malibu to start the next mission. And that mission is, once again, really simple, or in concept. Just like Cam Jones put us onto Phil Cassidy, Phil puts us onto the best driver he knows, a man named Hillary King, who has, let's just say, got some personality issues. Something to do with his mama, I don't know. Anyway, we'll have to beat him in a one-on-one street race, similar to how we had to impress Phil with our shooting skills, which in general seems a little bit silly. Like, if we're a good enough driver to beat him, why would we need him in the first place? At least with Phil, we'll both be gunmen, so it makes sense that he wants to know that Tommy is competent with a gun himself. But this, I mean, ultimately, it's just an excuse to have a mission, so let's stop complaining and get it done. One thing that annoys me is that Hillary drives the version of the Sabre that has the white stripe down the center, which you can see more of in San Andreas and later in Vice City Stories, but as far as I can tell, this is the only one in this game, which sucks, because it's my favorite 3D-era car. Luckily, the Sentinel we're given to race him in is mostly fast enough to get the job done, and winning this one is nowhere near as hard as Alloy Wheels of Steel, if only because you can't fall out of your car like you can on a bike. Well, that's the last team member recruited, so I guess it's finally time to go and rob ourselves a bank. Hell yeah. Alright, the day has finally arrived. It's time to get rich. So Tommy gives a short prep speech and it's off to cash out, with Tommy deciding to drive to the bank while Hillary takes control of the car after. See, this is just reinforcing my point that Hillary is a near worthless addition to the team. Fight me. So we pull up out front, open the trunk, and take out our weapons, and disguises, I presume, and then Hillary takes the wheel and Tommy tells him to drive around the block until it's time to make their escape. Okay, boys, let's go. What? What happened? See, this is one of the problems with the older GTAs. Sometimes crazy, random crap like this can happen to you. Well, I guess that's still pretty true of modern GTA now that I think about it. At least it was right at the start of the mission, so restarting just means driving back and forth one more time, but still, annoying. So we literally suit up right next to the building, hiding in some bushes, and then it's time to get the show on the road. Oh, it might be worth noting that this is another mission that, as far as I'm aware, received some heavy story cuts. See, originally, Kent Paul was supposed to be involved in all of this, which makes sense, given his constant presence at the Malibu, and Paul would put us onto the robbery, because the bank is protected by a corrupt division of the city's SWAT team. You can see some remains of this original plan at the very end of the mission, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Alright, nobody move!
Everybody up against that wall!
The rest of this section is pretty simple. We just gotta walk up to the safe and get Cam to do his thing, while taking care not to be killed by the couple of security guards inside. When Cam gets to the safe, though, he says he can't get it open. Well, great. Can nobody here do their job correctly except for me? Fine. I'll just go and get the manager and have him open it. Jesus. Alright, here. Open the damn thing and I'll be right back. Phil? Hey, Phil, how are things down here?
I told you not to touch that alarm!
Good lord. Seriously, can nobody do their job right? Now the SWAT team shows up and we gotta take them all out before making a run for it, and I should probably once again mention that being armed to the teeth with a minigun and thousands of rounds of ammunition here definitely puts the odds in my favor yet again. I seem to recall that surviving this ambush was a lot harder once upon a time, but once all the SWAT guys are dead, we head outside to catch our ride.
Dead! Where's Hillary? I'll give him abandonment issues.
Hey guys! Get in! I got you covered!
Good lord, can nobody do their job right around here? Fine, I'll do it myself. Get in, you morons. So it takes a bit of effort, but eventually I lose the cops after leaving the bank by respraying the car at a garage 200 feet down the road, classic, and then head back to Cam's locksmithing business to divvy up the dough. This is the part where we see a bit of evidence that the mission used to have more backstory and involved our favorite limey lunatic, and one more appearance from Mercedes. Sort of. A vocal appearance at least, before the mission ends and we unlock the asset. Now the mission itself only pays $50,000, which all things considered isn't much when you think about how expensive ammo is. But the asset payout you unlock is also the highest one in the game at 10,000, so if you make regular pickups here to collect it, it can be worth it. Plus, I mean, the mission thread itself is definitely one of the most memorable ones for me. So, in addition to the buyable asset missions, in order to unlock the final sections of the game, there are also a number of missions that don't concern one specific business, but the Empire as a whole, and these can be started from Tommy's mansion on Starfish Island. We already did the first one, Shakedown, when we sieged the North Point Mall, and this is the next one where we have to deal with some bar on Ocean Drive that's refusing to pay protection fees. Now, gameplay-wise, this mission isn't all that special, but story-wise, it sort of is. See, this is kind of another mission in Lance's character arc, since the opening cutscene makes it clear that Lance discovered this problem first and decided to sulk back at the mansion bar, which Tommy is not happy about, and Lance just kind of sits there and takes it. Now, as a kid, what eventually happens with Lance's character in the endgame kind of caught me off guard, but when you play the game years later as an adult, it's a lot easier to see it coming, whether you know it's coming or not. At least, I think so. I'm avoiding spoilers for the rare few of you who have somehow gotten this far into a video on Vice City and don't know how it ends, but yeah, it'll make a lot more sense later. Anyway, we show up at the bar, which hilariously has some very crude signage written using the same font they used for the GTA logo, and the price is right. And the owner tells us that this is happening because their previous protection is refusing to back down, and that they have a headquarters practically right around the corner. Well, okay, simple then. I'm sure you're sick of hearing me say this, but, well, because I have a minigun... I know, but seriously, this fight can actually be a real pain in the ass because of how the guys are positioned inside their little nest, but when you can disperse ammunition like a freaking field army jeep, well, there's not much the opposition can do unless they brought attack helicopters, and these guys didn't. Just after this mission, Lance calls again and complains about how Tommy treats him, and gets upset for Tommy yelling at him in front of their men, which is yet another example of how Lance's fate was probably becoming pretty obvious by this point for those who were paying attention. Just after that, I also went back and gave Recruitment Drive another try, this time making sure to avoid drawing the attention of the cops when fighting off Candy's agent's goons. And after taking care of the agent, all you gotta do is go collect Mercedes at the downtown pizza place and drive both girls to the movie studio. Something kinda weird though is when you're chasing the agent, he will actually sometimes stop his car and let out additional bodyguards to try and kill you, which I don't remember ever seeing before. I don't know, maybe I'm completely insane and some of them stayed in the car the first time, but I don't think so. I think this guy has some kind of experimental cloning device in his back seat, and he's not sharing, and that alone was reason enough to kill him. Alright, it's time to head back and see Mitch Baker and find out what his next errand is for getting that concert security. As it turns out, it's one of the simplest and most fun missions in the game. Mitch wants us to prove that we've had enough, and we ain't taking nothing from the man, or something, and thus the goal of this mission is to simply cause enough chaos before the timer is up, using whatever methods your little heart deems appropriate. This is basically a rampage, but a little more open-ended, seeing as you can do whatever you want with whatever weapons so long as you do enough damage overall. And given that, as you know, I had a minigun by this time, I decided the best thing to do was go crazy right outside the biker clubhouse. That way Mitch is sure to see that we mean business. After 2 minutes, it's all over, and it's on to the next... Oh shit, I didn't lose my wanted level after passing the mission. I didn't take that into account. Uh-oh. Well... This is why I did the hidden packages, so it's a quick restock and then back into the action. Now, as I mentioned before with the Malibu Club, after completing any individual asset missions, you unlock a regular collectible payment at that business, and even with the $100,000 bonus from the hidden packages and the vigilante missions, making regular collection runs is almost essential. Also, even with all of the hidden packages collected, you still only get access to the Tier 3 special weapons, a sniper, armor, and a magnum, but no shotgun and no SMG, which means you'll probably still need to make regular runs to ammunition to stay supplied. This means that even though it would be even more if I had to restock on all my weapons every time I die, I still end up having to run around the entire city to collect my payments, and then hit multiple ammunitions to save money on SMG ammo. Why multiple stores? Because if you buy one type of a gun and then replace it with another one from a higher tier, all the ammo is conserved. So the smartest way to save money and still have plenty of SMG ammo is to buy all your ammo from the ammunition in Ocean Beach, and then buy the actual SMG from the downtown store. You know, now that I think about it, this might not even be the best thing to do, since I remembered later on that you can actually only still move while shooting using the Uzi, the cheapest of the three, whereas almost every other gun in the game makes you plant your feet while shooting. Anyway, let's go wrap up the biker missions. So the third and final mission we have to do for the bikers is retrieve Mitch Baker's personal bike from a group of thugs who stole it recently. I'm pretty sure that based on their outfits, these gangsters are the group called the Sharks, though I don't know if they're ever actually called that in this game, but they are in Vice City stories. Anyway, what we gotta do is infiltrate their little downtown compound, grab the bike, and get it out in one piece. Sounds simple, and it is, but mostly thanks to old reliable Mr. Minigun. The first thing you gotta do is actually get to the compound, which involves making a massive leap on a different bike using the staircase. This is another one that was a lot easier, not just because of my favorite weapon, but also because I'd played it so many times as a kid, since I remembered this jump being particularly tricky to make and land properly, unless you got enough speed, and that if you're not careful, you can easily crash at the base of the stairs and have to drive all the way back far enough to get speed, which is why I used the Sanchez instead of the PCJ, or whatever it's called in this one, since the Sanchez has taller wheels and has an easier time getting upstairs without crashing. I mean, I could be wrong about all of that, but that's what I believe, and you can't take that from me. Anyway, we jump the stairs and land inside, and then use the minigun to sweep through the dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens. Wait. Oh, I get it. They're infinitely spawning from inside one of the buildings. Man, sometimes I'm slow. So we grab Mitch's bike, and then we gotta use another, much shorter staircase to leap the walls and get back on the streets. Then all we gotta do is drive it back to the HQ, and bam! Free concert tickets. And that's all it took. Alright, it's concert time. It's time to rock! Let's go see the band!
Tommy, man, that psycho's back!
What's going on? That psycho won't leave Love Fist alone!
You didn't kill him, man, and now he's back!
Yeah, the thing is,
we need someone to drive the limo we can trust, because that nutter keeps making threats!
Shell me, I need my mom!
We're all breaking ourselves, man!
Okay, guys, calm down. I'll handle this.
Whoa, what? Okay, I think most people who are big enough fans of these older GTAs has thought about this, but how the hell did they survive the last mission? I mean, you're either going to gun them down in the street, probably with a submachine gun, or blow up their car while they're in it. Who are they, Frank Rosenthal? Well, anyway, so this mission is actually a parody of the 1994 movie Speed, where Keanu Reeves has to keep a bus from exploding if it slows down too much because a terrorist strapped a bomb to it for some reason. In this, the killer who somehow survived our last assassination has put a bomb on Love Fist's limo, so that if it slows down too much for too long, it explodes, which seems pretty counterintuitive to the goal of kill Love Fist. Like, it's been a long time since I've seen Speed, but I'm pretty sure the person who planted the bomb in that movie had some kind of reason for doing it the way they did it, like they were trying to make a point or something. But here, don't they just want the band dead? If they took the time to put a bomb in their car that works, why wouldn't they just set it to go off as soon as we started the car? Am I missing something? I don't think they have any way of listening in, so it's not like they can enjoy the band's torment as they anticipate being blown into 1,000 tiny red Scottish chunks, so why do this? Because game, that's why. Well, the real fun here is just from listening to the band struggle to defuse the bomb, and as long as you take the main road on the eastern side of the second island, you should have plenty of room to drive straight and avoid losing too much speed, though there is a really dangerous U-turn at one point. Once the bomb is defused, we just drive the band to the concert, and we get a special little VIP look at the stage before presumably getting to watch them play. Too bad we don't actually get to see that, though. We'd have to wait until the next time we visited Vice City to get a fully animated renderware concert in the GTA universe, so instead it's time to head back to the movie studio over on Prawn Island. Now, though plenty of people have certainly played this game, a lot more have played San Andreas, as I've learned. So, you know in that game the mission you do for Zero, where you have to fly a model airplane around the city, taking down targets, and return it to the starting point without running out of fuel, and how absolutely clutch it feels like you have to be in order to complete it? Well, imagine that, but without the targets, and way more fuel, and you basically have Dildo Dodo. See, Tommy has come up with a, shall we say, unique method for advertising the studio's upcoming feature films by way of flying a plane over various parts of the city and airdropping hundreds of smutty adverts onto the unsuspecting populace of Vice City. Genius. I mean, I guess if you really suck at flying, this mission might still give you a bit of a hard time, but I mean, come on. Look how much fuel I still had when I finished, basically half my tank. All you gotta do is hit the 2 checkpoint markers for each airdrop, and that's it. You're done. So, I'll take this over supply lines any day of the week, thank you very much. Alright, so next up, I decided to head back to the Vercetti estate and do the next asset mission, which happens to be one of the more memorable missions in the game, Copland. See, thanks to Mike, the most important character in GTA history, we have to go and rearm an explosive at the Tarbrush Cafe in North Point Mall, since apparently that's too much to expect of my minions. Lance chews him out, but Tommy has a plan to fix it involving stealing a cop car and 2 uniforms, in order to get inside the mall without arousing suspicion. This is where that cop outfit I mentioned earlier in the mission to break Cam out of jail comes into play. Well, sort of. This unlocks it anyway. What we actually have to do is head to this garage in Vice Point and attract the cops' attention, luring at least 2 officers into this cozy little garage, where Tommy and Lance beat the crap out of them and take their outfits.
Tie him up and gag him.
Ooh, fits perfectly.
Bit tight around the crotch, though.
Oh, yeah, mine too.
You know, for some reason I always thought this was a reference to the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, but honestly, I have no idea. Spider-Man did come out a few months before this game's release, so I guess it's possible, but who the hell really knows? Maybe you do. Let me know in the comments. So once we have our cop outfit, all we gotta do is run around the corner and grab this conveniently placed cop car, and then head to the mall to do our business. You can run around like a maniac trying to steal another cop's car instead, but once you know about this one just sitting here waiting for you, you might as well take it and save yourself some anguish. When I get to the mall, I also made sure to park the car just outside the entrance to facilitate a quick escape, but I learned the hard way that just wasn't enough. Once you enter the cafe and plant the bomb, you have to immediately hightail it out of there and head back to the mansion with a 5-star wanted level, so you better be ready to get the hell out of Dodge, or something like this might happen. Well, I'll come back to this one later, but you've basically seen all the interesting parts, so it's time to move on. Wait. Oh crap. I didn't lose my stars when I failed the mission again. Fantastic. Well, I'm dead. Screw it. Let's go back to the movie studio. So, remember how I mentioned before that rising Silicon star Candy Sucks here has a relationship with Congressman Alex Shrub? Well, Mr. Shrub, despite his own personal proclivities, happens to be campaigning on a platform that includes the ban of pornographic films being made in Vice City, and that just won't do. So it's time for a crime lord's secret weapon, blackmail. Basically, we have to follow Candy's limo to where she meets Alex at the same condo where we killed Gonzalez back towards the beginning of the game, then run inside a building on the other side of the street to snap some illicit photos, which we can use to convince Alex to play ball. You're given a Sparrow helicopter for this mission, which makes trailing Candy a little bit less annoying and provides a quick escape, but you can't actually be caught by Candy for following her, so you really don't have to do it this way. Once she arrives, you just head up the stairs in the other building and take the pictures, and then you'll get another 5-star wanted level which you'll have to escape on your way back to the studio. I kinda screw up when doing this one though, because, well, I naively assumed that somehow I would be able to find the weapons I would need to fight off the cops, or just be able to escape without engaging them, since before starting this mission I died and lost all my weapons again. The problem is, if you don't come armed initially, you're almost certainly going to be killed by the cops in the staircase waiting for you, which is exactly what happened to me. Great. Well, once again, I didn't feel like redoing this mission right away, since it involves a slow, sloggy tailing section at the start before you take the pictures. So instead, I decided to drop in on a new friend of mine to see what he's up to, Phil Cassidy.
Bill! Run! Run! Wait!
Sweet Jesus. See what I mean about Phil Cassidy basically just being a slightly exaggerated Gary Busey? I mean, come on. Tell me you couldn't see Gary Busey building a moonshine still in an abandoned junkyard in Miami that also doubles as a black market gun shop selling some of the most dangerous and illegal guns that you couldn't possibly get your hands on. Am I wrong? No. No, I'm not. Anyway, Phil wants us to repay him for his role in helping us to pull off the bank heist, so he asks us to hit a rival arms dealer, Pedro Garcia, and take him out of business in order to help Phil's competing business thrive. By the way, the only reason I know the dealer's name is because of the wonderful GTA wiki, which is full of super talented and very passionate people who comb through these games to find the smallest details. They aren't always perfect though, and I have heard some of the frustrations people have had with the wiki and its occasional lack of clarity, and I have seen some mistakes myself that have yet to be corrected. This name though, Pedro Garcia, I have no idea how they found it, or if it's even true. It's probably something in the game's files, or maybe from one of those promo websites with lore tidbits that they released for this game around the time of release, but either way, it doesn't really matter. All we gotta do is kill him. Well, actually, you don't have to kill Pedro, and as I said, he isn't even mentioned by name or made a target for mission completion. You just have the option of killing him if you want to, and presumably, that would make Phil's domination of the local arms market even more lucrative. There are 2 convoys transporting the goods on either side of the second island, and our job is to ram each of the trucks hard enough to knock the weapons off the back, grab them, and bring them back to Phil. But like I said, we don't actually have to kill any of the dealers, we just can if we want to, which I do. Wait, what? Okay, so I haven't really brought this up yet, but in this game, if you get hit by a vehicle, one of 2 things will happen. You will either take minor damage, be knocked down and allowed to get up and continue as normal, or you'll be insta-killed like this. I think this is because the game applies damage if any vehicle is touching your character at all, while also moving, but I don't actually know why this happens, so just remember to watch out for the AI whenever they come at you in a vehicle. Sometimes, even if you have time to gun them down, their car might still claim its owner's revenge for them, so keep those leg muscles limber just in case you gotta dodge. Pun intended. Well, with yet another mission failure, I decided to go back and finish some of the ones I'd tried instead of starting yet another new mission thread, and embarrassing myself even more than I already have. I went back and completed Martha's mugshot by just bringing some guns with me this time, and then started the final mission for the movie studio asset, G Spotlight, which has a reputation for being one of the most frustrating missions in the entire game, and I'll tell you why. See, the goal of this mission is to get around the city's lack of eagerness to promote our studio's newest major motion picture by organizing some impromptu advertising. Specifically, we're going to rig some spotlights on top of a building downtown in order to display our ads to as many eyes as possible, whether they want to see it or not. This should be as easy as climbing up the side of the building or going inside and using the elevator or something, but that is not how Tommy rolls. So instead, we're going to use a freaking motorcycle to precariously climb our way to the roof using a series of stunt jumps to make our way there. The frustrating part of this mission is just how easy it can be to screw up some of these jumps, if you're not careful, and more importantly, keeping your bike from exploding with all the hard landings you'll be doing as you make your way across the rooftops. You'll have to make like 10 jumps or something, and some of these are really tight and leave almost no room for error. Luckily though, there is a checkpoint where if you've made it far enough, you can just skip a few of the first jumps, and odds are you'll be needing it, since falling is a near guarantee, unless you're like a speedrunner or something and play this mission all the time. I literally had to leap off the roof at one point and go hunting for a new bike after my first one blew up, but eventually I made it to the roof with the spotlight and rigged it up to finish the mission and complete the movie studio asset. Now that's what I call classy. So it's finally time to go buy the game's most important asset, which we couldn't afford the last time we tried to buy it, the printworks in Little Havana. See, like any good criminal kingpin, Tommy needs the ability to, what else? Manufacture counterfeit money, and where better to run such an operation than a printing facility? The guy you meet who runs this place, Ernest Kelly, is also one of the very few characters that Tommy seems to genuinely like and feel defensive of, likely because, as he mentions, Tommy's father used to work in a printing press and he spent his youth actually intending to follow him in his trade before being sidetracked by criminality. The first mission we gotta do for the printworks involves finding an existing counterfeit operation in Vice City by asking the one person we know who is likely to have heard something, Mr. Rumor Mill himself, Kent Paul. So we head to the Malibu, abuse Paul a bit more, and then learn that in order to dig up the information we need on the Syndicate, and get our hands on their custom printing plates, which we'll need to make our own fake money, we'll have to first assault a tanker ship docked in Viceport who works with the Syndicate, and convince them to tell us what they know. If you don't already know ahead of time, this mission can pretty easily get you killed, since the ship is crawling with dudes armed with fairly high-tier weaponry. So our best bet is to snipe a few of them from the shore before heading up, and then slowly make our way towards the top. Once we reach the shipping company boss, we interrogate him off-screen, and very quickly convince him to give up the Syndicate. Seriously, Tommy walks in and then almost immediately walks out, which makes me think that either the shipping boss witnessed our massacre as we made our way to the cabin, or we tortured him so hard, so fast, that he gave up the ghost. Whatever the case, we fight through a few more guys and then make our escape using the fastest vehicle known to man, a semi-truck cab. So you know what we haven't done in a while at this point? An assassination mission, and there's only 2 left to do along with a handful of main missions before we start approaching the endgame, so let's go get them out of the way before we continue on with the printworks or the other remaining assets. Our next assassination is at Escobar International Airport, where we have to grab a sniper and kill a specific target by watching who a specific woman talks to inside the airport after getting off her plane. After she talks to the guy, we gotta snipe him and then run in and grab his briefcase, which we then have to bring to the ammunition downtown. You only get 2 stars for killing him too, so it's really not hard at all to escape, but there is still one more mission from this thread to tackle, and that has a lot more kick to it. Before we do that though, I should probably complete some of the missions I failed earlier. I did Gunrunner at this point and managed to complete it without dying, but it made me realize that certain missions are probably best done before concluding the Haitian-Cuban gang war mission thread, since after we blow up the Haitian drug factory for Umberto, Auntie Poulet marks us as an enemy of the gang, and all Haitian gangsters who spot us on the street afterwards will open fire without hesitation. While dealing with one of the convoys near Little Haiti, I almost got killed again, but eventually I managed to pull it off using the handy-dandy minigun to clean up the bodyguards guarding each truck. So now for the final assassination mission, which we get just behind the Cherry Popper ice cream factory, and this one is easily the hardest of the whole thread, which is appropriate considering it's the last one. Basically, we have to interrupt an exchange happening on the roof of the ice cream factory, which means first fighting our way through dozens of well-armed bodyguards spread around the area. And once again, using heavy weapons like the minigun, M60, or even the rocket launcher is very helpful here. One of the easiest ways to deal with these guys without being cut to ribbons, though, is by abusing the sniper rifle, since most of the time it's a one-hit kill if you're using the high-tier sniper, and because it allows us to keep our distance. We kill some dudes in the lower courtyard and then mosey our way onto the roofs of the nearby buildings so that we can reach the exchange on top of Cherry Poppers, but we need to take care not to be caught off guard by some of them who are placed in annoying or otherwise inconvenient locations like this asshole up on the billboard. Once they're all dead though, you just gotta kill the group by the helicopter, steal the briefcase, and get the hell out of there, but be very careful not to rush it towards the end, since there are a couple of guys hidden behind the vents on the roof that will absolutely destroy you if you aren't ready for them. Nice and conveniently though, the game provides us with a helicopter, so once we have the briefcase, we fly away, deliver the merchandise to a helipad at the airport, and we're done. Assassination missions complete. Alright, so it's back to the print works, since now that we know where to find the existing counterfeit operation, it's time to put them out of business. Permanently. We meet with Lance and Ernest and learn that the courier carrying the counterfeit plates will be arriving shortly at the Vice City docks with heavy security, which means we gotta arm up and go down there to intercept them. On the surface, this mission seems like it should be pretty simple, and really it is, but the thing is, the enemies you'll be fighting in this mission are packing some serious heat, so we'll have to be careful on our approach to avoid getting slaughtered. We actually can find them at the exact same spot where all this mess started, where the Forelli drug deal was ambushed. Not that we care much about that at this point, but this time we aren't hopelessly trapped in a cutscene and unable to fight back. Instead, we're armed and very, very dangerous. Problem is, so are they. The Syndicate is also comprised entirely of women for whatever reason. I guess the patriarchy had infected even the counterfeit cash industry, and these gals were just chock full of too much girl power to be stopped. That and shotguns. Lots of shotguns. I even think the game considers the Spaz 12 or combat shotgun the most overpowered weapon in the game, since even once every other weapon has been unlocked, including quite possibly the heavy weapons from Phil's, the Spaz 12 is still unavailable until much later in the game, though I don't actually know what mission unlocks it, so if you do, let me know. Almost every bodyguard on the ground here is armed with one, and they will very easily destroy you with only a couple of shots if you get too close, or hell, even if you're keeping your distance, since 3D-era GTA are some of the only games that sometimes treat shotguns like actual shotguns, by not gimping their range to only a few feet in front of you. Just like in real life, you don't need to be touching noses in order to completely immobilize somebody with a shotgun blast, and unfortunately, this goes both ways, so you really gotta watch out for these ladies, or they will absolutely annihilate your face. There are also a number of snipers dotted around the area, so you should also come armed with one yourself, otherwise you'll get through the initial wave of shotgun death, only to be greeted by the pleasant second wave of sniper death. Using a variety of heavy assault weaponry, I carefully work my way through all the bodyguards and take out the courier before they even have a chance to try and run away, even managing to keep their helicopter from blowing up in the fight, giving me a nice convenient way to get out of there fast once I grab the plates off the dead courier. But what about our good buddy Phil? What's he been up to lately? I'm sure he's been keeping on the level.
Hey, Phil. How's it going?
Hey, Connie! How you doing? It's been too long.
Once again, it's just regular Gary Busey. I don't even think he was acting. I think he was just actually this wasted. See, if you happen to remember Phil from GTA 3, which takes place about 15 years before Vice City, you might remember that Phil was in that game too, now living on the East Coast and notably missing an arm. Well, if you've been paying attention, you might have also noticed that Phil still has his arm, which means it's only a matter of time before he's disarmed. And this mission just so happens to be when it goes down.
Ta-da! Oh, damn!
While drunk off his ass and trying to operate some of his remote explosives, he accidentally detonates them right next to himself and literally blows off his left arm. Meaning we gotta rush into the hospital as quick as we can before he bleeds out and dies of Florida Man syndrome. This is actually by far one of the easiest and simplest missions in the game, and especially considering how far into the late game we are, since all we have to do here is drive Phil's truck to a few places before dropping him off, while dealing with the game's drunk cam. Yeah, you know that awful drunken camera effect from GTA 4 that they even used as part of the game's copy protection? Well, it's actually in this game too, though far less fleshed out and a lot easier to manage, especially given Vice City and the 3D GTAs in general's more generous vehicle handling. We take him to a hospital, but Phil's too paranoid to be seen given his own criminal history, so instead we drop him off at an ex-army surgeon buddy of his who can fix him up, and upon completing this mission we also unlock the ability to purchase heavy weapons like the flamethrower, minigun, M60, and the rocket launcher from Phil's compound on the edge of Little Haiti. Only for us, we really don't need it since I did the hidden packages and have access to unlimited free ammo for these weapons already, except the M60. Phil's is also considered an asset as you get the asset completed screen after the mission thread, but it's one of the assets you can skip if you want to, since the only mandatory missions involving Phil are the bank heist setups and the finale. Speaking of assets you can skip, around this time I considered doing the only other asset I didn't want to do in this run, which was the Sunshine Autos asset on the second island. but ultimately, I just didn't feel like it. See, for Sunshine Autos, you have to complete an import-export list, which means finding a number of specific vehicles and then delivering them to the showroom, on top of completing a few races, though I don't think you actually need to do those to get the asset payout. I could have run around the city for probably an hour or two finding the cars I needed, and then doing the races, but given how tedious it can be to complete this, and the fact that I'm incredibly lazy, I decided to pass on it and just bought it instead. You know, just to say I did. Alright, so we're getting real close to the endgame here. There's only one other asset left to do, and since I already decided it won't be Sunshine Autos, that means our other choice is Kaufman Cabs in Little Havana. The main gist of these missions is that we have to help establish Kaufman as the city's dominant cab service, since their main rival, VC Cabs, has been killing them in terms of customers lately. I'm pretty sure I know why, too. They're aggressive as all hell, and in a city like this, I guess it works. The first mission we do involves picking up some special VIP customer on Starfish, but before we can collect them, a VC Cab swoops in and gets the fare. Not like arrived before us, no, they literally drive in front of us on the sidewalk, and that's enough to get the VIP into their car instead of ours. Imagine that. You call a cab, you're waiting for it, and as you see it about to pull up, another cab from a rival company speeds up directly in front of the one you called and demands that you give them the fare instead. See what I mean? Aggressive. Well, two can play at that game. All we gotta do, though, is viciously attack the rival cab until the VIP decides that it's somehow a good idea to get in the car of the person who basically just tried to kill them. And that's how you make it in the taxi business. Fight fire with fire. Keeping up with the new precedent we set, the next mission involves us taking the fight to them by finding and destroying at least 3 VC cabs around the city. And this is, kind of unfortunately, exactly what it sounds like with no twist. The cars we have to destroy are even set targets, and not just random cabs either, which, while probably less tedious, is significantly less interesting, I think. What's more, none of these cab drivers really retaliate, and they don't send any crazy cabbies after us to, even the score afterwards, at least not yet. Blow up the third car, and done. Now it's on to the third and final mission for the asset, where things take an interesting turn. In this one, we are supposedly going to pick up Mercedes, who specifically asks for us, but when we show up at the location we're supposed to pick her up at, we instead get ambushed by an absolute gaggle of VC cab drivers who are bent on exacting some revenge. Think about that for a second. That means the head of VC Cabs, or whoever coordinated this fiasco, took the time to do thorough research on Tommy's life, enough to learn about his relatively quiet association to Mercedes, and that Tommy would feel obligated enough to come and pick her up. I'm starting to get why VC Cabs was at the top of the competition before this, since whoever runs it clearly has the right business mindset for a place like Vice City. Normally, this part ends up being a difficult and sometimes very brutal fight against the cabbies, mostly because of that thing I mentioned earlier regarding how getting hit with a vehicle works. It's pretty easy to get clipped by one of these guys in just the wrong way that you lose all of your health and probably armor in a matter of moments. And after we kill all of these drivers, we're also going to have to face the boss taxi driver, so we got to keep that in mind. The thing is, I went into this mission knowing that it can be really difficult, or at least really annoying, so I immediately went about finding somewhere the cabs wouldn't be able to hit me, and well, I found it. All you gotta do for this mission is stand on the edge of this pier here and gun each of the cabs down, which makes the whole thing a hell of a lot easier, though not foolproof, since this is GTA after all. We still gotta be careful that we don't destroy a cab and have its wreckage knock us into the water behind us, or blow up one of the taxis at the wrong angle and kill ourselves, not to mention actually reach the edge before the initial drivers reach you, but it really wasn't that difficult, and once the boss cab shows up, it's pretty much just as easy taking him down. Doing the mission this way makes an otherwise very difficult mission almost trivial, but trust me, however you complete it, don't try to do it while remaining in your car. I mean, you can, it's not impossible or anything, in fact it might even be a little bit safer sometimes, since they can't run you over and insta-kill you, but do not underestimate how violent these guys will be when trying to take you out. They showed up for a freaking destruction derby, and they're so dedicated to their jobs that they're apparently willing to die for it, so tread lightly. Use the ledge and mow them down with precision, like with a minigun. After beating it, we complete the final asset, sort of, and more importantly unlock the penultimate mission over at the Printworks, Cap the Collector. So the story here is that Sonny Forelli, yeah, remember him? He only calls like 3 or 4 times the whole game, but about a third of the way into the game he just kind of stops being mentioned. I don't know if I would exactly call this a plot hole per se, but I do think it's weird that it took the family so damn long to become suspicious of what Tommy was doing in Florida, given that he never retrieves the stolen drugs or money from the beginning of the game, or at least never calls Sonny to let him know that he can make up for the loss. It's never actually specified exactly how much time passes between Tommy arriving in Vice City and the Forellis coming to check up on him, but given that the whole game takes place in 1986, the absolute longest it could be is 1 year, which would be quite a long time. Then again, I'm not in the mob, so... Anyway, they're finally coming to try and collect on what they think is their slice of Tommy's criminal organization, given that they set him up down here with the initial deal. How are they going to collect, you ask? Why, by taxing our various assets, that's how, which means we'll have to speed across the map trying to catch each collector before they have a chance to rip us off. They first hit the Printworks, which is where we start the mission, and make the mistake of assaulting one of the game's most innocent characters, Ernest Kelly, which only serves to piss Tommy, and us, off even more, so it's time to dish out a little payback and show the Forellis just who runs Vice City. So I'm not 100% sure how this mission actually works, but basically a few different collectors will spawn on the map and start making their way towards your various assets, and your job is to catch each one and, well, cap the collector. Get it? In order to fail, I think you'd have to actually let them tax literally every single business, since when they do arrive at each one, they take the money and keep going, giving you plenty of time to catch up and take it back. They travel on Sanchez motorbikes too, which in a way makes it even easier to take them out since you can actually just crash right into them, as long as you don't give them a chance to shoot at your car very much. Once we take out the last collector, we pass the mission and unlock the game's finale back at Tommy's mansion on Starfish Island. Alright, let's do this.
What's going on?
Tommy! Oh, good. Listen. I like fish. I love fish. I love them as pets in bowls, or as food on a plate, but as much as I love them, I don't want to sleep with them, okay? But right now, your Italian brothers are coming from up there to fit me with some cement shoes, and I...
Shut up, Ken! Sit down. Lance, what the hell's going on?
It's your friends up north, Tommy. They ain't too happy you capped their man. They're coming down to see the business today.
They took longer than I thought. Guys, we gotta make this final. We gotta leave no doubt that this is my operation. Mine! Ken, you get the first run of counterfeit cash and put 20 mil in briefcases. Lance, you get the guys together.
So, by taking out their collectors, we piss off the mob even more, but strangely, their response is not to immediately assume Tommy's hostility and start a war, but to casually arrange a visit at Tommy's mansion, patrolled and guarded by his entire gang, and try to collect the money he supposedly owes them. Now, once again, I ain't no mobster, but something tells me this was not the smartest decision on Sonny Forelli's part, and given the inevitable conclusion of this game, I think I'm probably right. But there's only one way Sonny himself is going to learn that, the hard way. He shows up with a couple of Forelli goons, and we arrange to give him a briefcase full of fake cash from the Printworks to satiate their economic appetite for the time being. But before we can complete the exchange, we see the culmination of Lance's character arc and all those phone calls, when he betrays us by telling Sonny about the fake money and letting his mobsters know that the real money is in our safe upstairs.
But at least someone in your chicken organization knows how to do business. Isn't that right, Lance?
Sorry, Tommy, this is Vice City. This is business.
You sold us out.
No, I sold you out, Tommy. I sold you out. The real cash is upstairs in the safe.
So, Tommy, what was the big plan? You think I just take the fake cash, save face, and run away with my tail between my legs?
No, I just wanted to piss you off before I kill you.
Again, as a kid, I definitely remember this kind of feeling random and like it just came out of left field, but when you're actually paying attention to Lance's dialogue and you don't just skip the phone calls, you can definitely suss this out beforehand. Once we actually start, we're placed at the top of the stairs directly in front of our office, and our goal is to fight off several waves of Mafia soldiers while making sure not to let any of them in the office where the safe is. Under normal circumstances, this fight is, fittingly, absolutely brutal. The mob guys will just keep pouring in, and if you're not careful, they will very easily get inside the office and start taking your money like a forgotten streaming service bill, so keep your eyes on the door. Also, normally, after killing enough mobsters, you get a little cutscene where Lance shows up and you can chase him up to the roof for a final showdown. But while this is happening, the mob can also reach your safe, so you gotta be sure to keep the lobby clear before you go after Lance. Normally, like I said. This time, though, I have a minigun, and when you have a minigun, well, this mission kind of becomes stupid easy and a bit boring. You don't even have to move, since you can reach all the attackers from right where the mission spawns you. And something new I learned on this playthrough is you can even skip the entire confrontation with Lance on the roof if you kill him fast enough in the lobby, which as far as I can tell is only possible with the minigun or maybe the M60, though I guess if you're quick enough, the rocket launcher might also do the trick. After Lance is dead, one more short cutscene plays where Sonny shows up himself, though I'm not exactly sure where he went immediately following the end of the last cutscene, or really how anybody wound up where they are after that. Sonny does have significantly more health than the average mobster, but once again, when you're using a minigun that basically spits instant death from its 10 barrels, it really doesn't make much of a difference. Maybe it would if they were also armed with combat shotguns or M4s or something, but most of them, including Sonny, only have the Kruger, which is the Tier 1 assault rifle, so even if you don't have the minigun, this mission isn't all that hard, so long as you come well armed with Tier 3 weapons to outclass all the mobsters. We finally gunned down Sonny, and that's it. We are now the undisputed criminal kingpin of Vice City. Dude, nice.
Tommy? Oh my God, Tommy, what happened?
What does it look like?
It looks like you ruined your suit, and Tommy, that was a beautiful suit. Tommy, what on earth happened?
I had a disagreement with a business associate. You know how it is.
Tommy, I have a disagreement. I send them an angry letter. Maybe I pee in their mailbox. I don't start World War III. You know, maybe you should speak to my shrink.
That stupid prick Lance.
Tommy, I never liked that guy, okay? He's neurotic, he's insecure, he's self-centered. The guy's an asshole. I'm glad you took him out.
I don't think we're gonna be getting any more heat from up north either. Because there ain't no up north anymore. It's all down south now.
Wait, does that mean what I think it means? Tommy, baby!
What do you think it means?
That we're in charge. I mean that you're in charge. Oh, Tommy!
You know, Ken, I think this could be the beginning of a beautiful business relationship. After all, you're a conniving, backstabbing two-bit thief, and I'm a convicted psychotic killer and drug dealer.
I know. Ain't it just beautiful?
Well, we've just about wrapped things up with Vice City, but before we go, it's time for trophies and a quick recap on my thoughts about the game 20 years after its release. Alright, trophies. First up, Love Fisted. This one is just because Vice City introduced us to our favorite group of drunken Scottish bisexuals, and the only game in the 3D trilogy to actually feature them in cutscenes and dialogue. I just f***ing love Love Fist. Their music is even on Spotify, which is hilarious. Next up, Scarface. As an enormous fan of the Brian De Palma classic Scarface, this game is just overflowing with great references to not only Scarface, but lots of other similar 80s style crime dramas like Carlito's Way or Miami Vice. I mean, just look at who voices Mr. Lance Van's dance. From Tommy's Mansion, to the chainsaw first being introduced in GTA, to the usually epic shootout at the end of the game mirroring the end of Scarface, I absolutely love the vibe of this game, and overall, I think they really hit it out of the park with the presentation. And finally, Best Arsenal. Of all the 3D era GTA games, Vice City probably has my favorite selection of actual weapons, even if the shooting mechanics themselves would be fleshed out more in San Andreas. Specifically, I just love the M60 in this game, despite the fact that I mostly used the minigun, which was pretty much just because of how easy it was to farm the ammo after doing the hidden packages. The Magnum, the Katana, the Chainsaw, the M4, and of course the all-purpose minigun are all just really fun to shoot, sound satisfying, and are just all around a good time. Not to mention, this was the first 3D GTA to really expand the weapon selection with 3 tiers of each type, mostly, which would go on to become a staple of the PS2 and PSP era games. So what are my thoughts on the game all these years later? Well, obviously I still love it to pieces, but there's definitely a lot more blemishes that I notice when playing these days than back when I was a kid, obviously. But a lot of those, though not all of them, are products of the game design around that time, and aren't issues that Vice City has exclusively, like floatier controls. Most of the actual missions in the game are pretty easy or stupid hard, and there's really not a whole lot of in between, which can be a bit of a bad thing, but lots of those missions are sufficiently interesting and memorable to make up for the frustration or boredom they might otherwise cause. This was the first GTA to actually assign a real personality, motivation, and character arc to the main character and some of the side characters, with a much stronger emphasis on cohesive and engaging storylines that keep you invested in the world of Vice City. A lot more than some of the more cardboardy characters from GTA 3, some of which would be fleshed out themselves in later entries of the franchise, like Salvatore Leone or even Vic Vance from the start of this game. Then there's the music. I know I said I would talk about it ages ago, but technically the video is still going, so I haven't missed the deadline yet. Now I am primarily a classic rock guy, The Who, Pink Floyd, Oasis, that kind of stuff, but second to classic rock for me is 80s pop, or really just 80s music in general from this part of the world. Mr., Michael Jackson, Loverboy, Hall & Oates, Judas Priest, A Flock of Seagulls, Tears for Fears, Run f***ing DMC, and I could go on, for quite a while, seriously. Obviously I'm super biased, and I'm not saying other GTAs don't have plenty of radio stations and songs that I love, but the soundtrack to Vice City is easily my favorite soundtrack of any GTA game to date, with there only being really one station that I don't listen to every song on, that being Radio Espantoso. Sorry, Radio Espantoso. This is also the first game to introduce assets into the series, something that would be seen again in San Andreas, sort of in Vice City Stories, and then again later in GTA 5. It's not some revolutionary mechanic, it just gives you a bit more freedom when choosing which missions to complete and which to skip to reach the endgame. But just the idea of building your own crime empire from scratch and then sort of micromanaging your way to the top is just so satisfying, and makes the game's finale, where you defend your organization, all the more engaging. Now, I do have to say, I am fully aware that this game, much like GTA 3 or really any 3D-era GTA title, is chock full of cheap bullshit that would probably frustrate a lot of first-time players today who have become used to more convenient features used in later GTA games, like mission checkpoints or keeping your weapons after dying. There's almost nothing more frustrating than spending 10 minutes on a mission only to die a cheap death towards the end and have to drive all the way around the map to restock your ammo and restart the mission. Though games like GTA 5 kinda took it to the opposite extreme by almost removing any punishment whatsoever for dying, so I gotta think somewhere there's a happy medium. Oh, hello again, Vice City Stories. Another thing this game has going for it that a lot of the 3D-era GTA games had was an absolutely star-studded cast, maybe even more so than any other GTA game to date, at least that I'm aware of, and pretty much all of them give killer performances. Ray Liotta, our leading man, Burt Reynolds, Luis Guzman, Philip Michael Thomas, Danny Trejo, Lee Majors, Gary Busey. It's just crazy how many talented and well-known actors they managed to swing for this outing. I mean, GTA 3 had plenty of famous actors like Frank Vincent, Michael Madsen, or Robert Loggia, but Vice City just turned it up to 11, and managed to get together a crew of insanely talented voice artists to really bring the game and its story to life in a way that GTA 3 really didn't. I am basically incapable of being objective about this game. I realize that a rather dated and occasionally brutally frustrating game from 2 decades ago probably doesn't garner a whole lot of new fans these days, but if you've played some of the more modern GTA games like 4 or 5, and you're interested in seeing how the game series has evolved since the early days, I can think of almost no better introduction than Vice City, since, though I love GTA 3, it's surprisingly even more clunky and mechanically frustrating as the first 3D GTA game in history. Whereas VC really started the trend of having great storylines and introduced a lot of quality of life improvements, now that the team making the games was a bit more used to making a game in a 3D engine, even if it was only released about a year after 3. Well, that's pretty much it. Grand Theft Auto Vice City is one of my favorite games of all time, and maybe even my favorite GTA of the 3D trilogy, though that kind of feels like choosing between your children. If you haven't yet seen the first episode in this series, since nobody watched it, and you enjoyed this video, go and check it out, where I take a look at another game on the complete opposite side of the spectrum that also used to have a pretty significant impact on me as a kid. So remember, if you've got kids and they want to play GTA games earlier than they should be, just let them. I played Vice City for the first time when I was like 7 and I turned out just fine. Okay, maybe that's a bad example. Stay in drugs, kids, don't do school. I'm out of here. Oh, and a very special thank you to all of those who support me on Patreon for just being awesome. If you enjoy my content and want to help me continue making it into the future, there is no better way to do so than by signing up on my Patreon. You get early access to videos, the ability to download episodes even if you don't have YouTube Premium, and literally almost 100 original music tracks that were made over the last year or so for my other shows, Grand Theft Auto Biographies, Geographies, and A Criminal History. Thanks so much again for watching, and I'll see you next time around for something. I don't know, I'm kind of done planning out videos too far ahead, so whenever it's done, you'll see it, as long as you remember to subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon to make sure you get notified when it releases. Alright, thanks for tuning in, y'all. I'm Guinness Walker, and you have yourself a wonderful evening.